I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for Thursday, November 4th. Would everybody please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard.
Here.
Member Garza.
Here.
Member Peters. Member Benedict.
Here.
Member Estrada.
Here.
Member Dugan.
Here.
Chairman Miller.
Here. All right. Director, do we have any changes to the agenda?
No changes.
Sorry, man, I tried. We had an applicant want to be moved up earlier. All right. Approval of the minutes. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes from both October 7th and our special meeting on October 21st?
Do we have to make two motions or one motion would do it? Do we need two motions or one motion to do it?
For minutes.
One?
One's fine.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the minutes from October 7th and October 21st.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right. On to why you guys are all here this evening. So welcome. We're going to jump into the new business segment of the agenda. And for those of you that may be here for the first time, staff will present each agenda item. From there, the commission will get the opportunity to ask any questions of staff, any clarification. Once that's completed, we will give the applicant and/or their representative the opportunity to come forward, present any information on the agenda item, add to, speak to, as well as answer any questions that the commission may have. Once that's completed, we will open it up to the public. So if anybody from the public would like to speak to the agenda item, please note if you have specific questions. We'll take those down, and then once the public portion's done, we'll bring up the appropriate party so we don't have a discussion happening from the podium. Each public member would get approximately 3 minutes. And so with that, we will move to the first agenda item, DSA 21-00208. Ms. Kylie Bagnall-Wheeler presenting. Oh, technical difficulties. It was a beautiful flag, however, it's...
Good evening, Chairman Miller, members of the commission. The first item on the agenda is a conditional use permit for a special purpose fence, DSA 21-00208. Oh, okay. The request from Emmanuel Baptist Church is to install a wrought iron fence approximately 5 foot 6 inches tall around their property to provide additional security measures. The special purpose fence request is to allow a fence over 36 inches to be within the front yard setback located along First Street. The applicant is currently processing a right-of-way encroachment permit to allow fencing within the existing right-of-way for First Street as well. And staff is supportive of this due to unlikeliness of First Street being widened. The current 20-foot setback is within the current parking lot for the site. And then here's a rendering of the fence. The conditional use permit criteria is in compliance and has been reviewed by staff. Staff followed standard public notice procedures of this request as seen in this picture of the public hearing notice out on site. Now, staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit subject to the following technical corrections and associated conditional use resolution DSA 21-00208 for a special purpose fence within the R2 zoning district, subject to approval of a certificate of appropriateness by the Historic Preservation Commission. These technical corrections are as follows: to modify the fence location to show the fence within the right-of-way along First Street, and to modify the fence in a manner that results in the northeast corner of Brown Avenue and First Street being out of the site visibility triangle. and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for staff? No questions. All right. At this time, is there an applicant and/or a representative that would like to speak to the agenda item? No? Okay. Then at this time, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? You mean all of you did not come here for the fence? I will close the public portion and bring it back to the commission.
Chairman, I move to approve DSA-21-00208 for conditional use permit and with the associated condition use resolutions from the staff.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Garza?
Aye.
Member Benedict?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Member Dugan?
Yes.
Chairman Miller?
Yes. And I think, was that the first presentation? Second. Okay. I apologize.
Still a good job.
I know, I was going to say, excellent job for your, if it was your, obviously either one, but. All right, next agenda item. DSA 21-00150. Mr. Horn.
Thank you, Chairman Miller and Commissioners. Rose Law Group is requesting a general plan amendment from the Commerce and Business and Neighborhoods land use category to the Manufacturing and Industry land use category for approximately 2,160 acres, generally located south of Val Vista between Burris Road and Corrales Road. You can see the location shown below. The 2030 general plan shows it in neighborhoods and commerce and business. The neighborhoods is outlined in yellow there. The blue is the commerce and business, and the purple is the manufacturing and industry area. So this will be an extension of the manufacturing and industry within the area. A little bit overview of the project. The proposed amendment seeks to change the land use map designation of the subject property to potentially reopen and expand the mining operations of the site. The area being amended is located within the city, while the existing mine is located within the unincorporated area of the county and outside the limits of the city. The applicant is concurrently processing a zone change, which you'll see next, to a planned area development that details the potential uses and development standards of the expanded area. When looking at the review criteria for the general plan, we cover the following criteria. All of it's been covered in your staff report. We'll concentrate on just the items highlighted tonight. The first one is describe in detail how each of the general plan guiding principles are achieved with the proposed general plan amendment. We've got 11 of those guiding principles. We're just going to hit on a couple tonight. The first one is honor and preserve the rural and agricultural heritage of Casa Grande while allowing urbanization to occur in appropriate locations. Copper mining in Arizona has been a major industry in the state since the 19th century, and it's an important part of its history. The 2030 general plan actually recognized the importance of the mining, stating Casa Grande has a rich mining history extending back to the early 20th century as miners took advantage of the area's mineral and ore deposits. Resource extraction and aggregate collection have played a vital role in the development of Casa Grande as a regional industrial and manufacturing hub. Revitalization of the Cactus Mine, which did operate from 1972 to 1984, will allow for the continuation of this industry because the proposed use does not include high-density development such as small lot or multifamily residential and/or commercial shopping centers. Casa Grande's rural and agricultural heritage will not be impacted. The second that we'll cover is community growth should be driven by industrial and other similar developments which offer the opportunity for high-paying quality jobs. The reopening of the mine does present an opportunity for high-paying quality jobs, as it will require a variety of skilled employees. The Cactus Mine will promote the following general plan goal and action step, which is Goal AR1, diversify industrial land uses to include aggregate and mining activities. And the action step for that is AR 1.1, accommodate additional aggregate and mining operations where such operations are compatible with existing and/or future land use patterns. And the third one is support and strengthen Casa Grande's position as an industrial and commercial center of Pinal County. So as the global transition to clean energy continues, the demand for copper increases, the reopening of the mine will position Casa Grande as an important contributor of materials needed for that transition. This in turn will support and strengthen Casa Grande's position as the industrial and commercial center of Pinal County. In the next review criteria, it's describe how the proposed amendment enhances or has no net impact on mobility and traffic congestion. So you can see here the Val Vista road alignment highlighted in yellow, where it dips down. That was to accommodate the Copper Mountain Ranch PAD initially. The mine is proposing to make that straight through now. Our traffic engineer has reviewed and approved the modified alignments. The next criteria is describe in detail how any of the general plan goals and/or action steps are achieved by the proposed amendment. Aside from the previous covered items, this proposal meets the following goals and action steps. Goal MI-1 is provide and expand the manufacturing industry land use areas to accommodate a variety of industries. Action step for that is MI-1.1, identify locations where it would be beneficial to increase the manufacturing and industry areas within the city. This property immediately surrounds the previously operational Cactus Mine. As such, the property is in an appropriate location to expand the land use category. Goal MI-2 is mitigate adverse impacts from industrial users. Action step for that is to create effective buffers when industrial development is adjacent to lower intensity residential, office, or institutional land uses by using a variety of techniques. Although the property is not adjacent to any existing development, the zoning proposal that you'll see next includes development standards regarding setbacks and buffers that are intended to mitigate any adverse impacts to surrounding properties. So we'll cover that in the next presentation. Goal MI-3 is to promote diversified types of industries and uses. The proposed amendment promotes diversified types and industries and uses as it will allow for the reopening of the mine. The reopening will provide Casa Grande with an industry that will employ a unique employment base and therefore help diversify the local economy. And goal MI-5, encourage appropriate and responsible industrial development in appropriate locations. Again, the proposed area immediately surrounds the existing mine. As such, the area is an appropriate location for the proposed mining use. In regards to notification, we met or exceeded all requirements. We did have a 60-day review period for county planning agencies, abutting municipalities, Arizona Commerce Authority, and ADWR, along with our other standard notification practices. We only received one inquiry with no comments from that inquiry. So in conclusion, staff recommends Planning Commission forward a recommendation to approve DSA-21-00150, a major general plan amendment to change the land use category from commerce and business and neighborhoods to manufacturing and industry. Any questions?
Any questions for staff?
It's like you guys have heard it all before.
Deja vu here. All right, since there's no questions for staff, would the applicant and/or their representative like to speak to this agenda item, add any additional information? Yeah, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Omar Abdallah. I'm an attorney at Rose Law Group, 7144 East Stetson Drive in Scottsdale. I don't have any additional comment. Joe covered it quite well, but I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know that I was here and available to answer questions, along with some of the team from Arizona Sonoran, Travis Snyder, Ian McMullen, and Adam Hawkins, and we're ready if you have anything you'd like to ask us.
Great. So the guy that came to the last meeting said that you were coming prepared with a very a presentation that was going to be very detailed.
So we do have some slides.
I'm sorry.
Well, Chairman Miller, we do have some slides, but considering, we do have a big crowd, and it looks like you do have a long agenda ahead of you, and I think we do have the Suns game tonight. I don't know if you need to see all of that today.
We're here worrying about what's important. It's agenda here. Any questions for the applicant?
None.
No questions? All right, well, thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you.
And then this time I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Sure, that would be a portion of it. Yes, you can ask a question if you're from the public and would like to. Yeah. Yes, please. I would like you to come forward and state your name and address for the record. You indicated that you wanted to written. You can ask the question. I'll make note of it. That's all right. I'll make note of it so then that way we can make sure we get the appropriate party to answer the question.
Okay, thank you. My name is Skylar Haggard. I live at 19325 West Hopi Drive. I know that you said, I'm kind of going backwards here a little bit. I know you said that you had posted signage. The only sign that I have seen is at the far west end of the property. So unless you're driving down Val Vista, no one saw those signs. All of the homeowners in Avalon and Indian Hills, most of them exit out onto Pinal. It's not all of them go the other way. So I don't know if enough people really are aware of it. I don't read the dispatch. Unfortunately, I probably should. So I'm a little, yes, I'm sure they did meet all of the requirements for the public notice, but it seems like it could have been more centrally located if you really wanted to have any input from the neighborhoods. With that being said, will there be any notices to the actual residents in the area? The Indian Hills, Avalon, what have you? I don't know. If you probably don't need to, but it might be nice. I know you did mention that the second presentation is going to refer to the barriers and what beautifications. So I'll hold that question for that. Of the 2,100 acres plus that is going to be, that is part of this, how much of that is actually going to be mined? What is the use of all the 2,100 acres? Is it all going to be mined? Is 10%? Is it 50? I don't have any idea. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I will have, Paul, do you want to touch base on requirements for notification and things like that just from the city?
I know.
Or,
So I'm going to ask Joe to talk about the notification that he undertook. All the other questions, I think, are more appropriately addressed at the zoning stage.
Yep.
So we can cover them there, but we'll have Joe talk about the notification.
okay.
So we did have the option to post the signs. The only frontage that this site actually has, if you see on the graphic above, to Val Vista, is actually over in the west portion of their property. It doesn't look very wide, but that's about a 600-foot gap from Val Vista to their property boundary where we're actually doing the amendment. We also posted a sign down on Maricopa Casa Grande Highway. I believe the requirements for notification were 300 feet. For this particular item, we did extend that to 1,000 feet. So we did try and meet as much as we could out there without expanding it to include so much area that would be a massive notification. So we did meet or exceed all those requirements for the sign postings and notification.
And then just for community awareness, we post the information on the website as well, right? All the agenda items and things that are going on in the community each month are posted. Is that correct? So they can go and sign up for electronic notification. They can choose to read them or ignore them as well. Is that correct?
And all the agenda is posted online.
With links to each case. So I know it's not always fully, I guess, typically in an everyday, you don't notice it, but there are resources as well, at least just for future references of other things that are happening. So you're aware. You can go on to the city's website and request to be notified of planning and zoning, the council meetings. You can get all that information. It'll just come straight to your email, and you can see what's going on and choose to attend or not as well. At least for you, as well as anybody that might be watching, that is available to everybody.
I can also add too that any future applications for this, I can pull the address that she provided from speaking at the podium and try and make sure that I include her on any future mailings of any other proposals that they might have. Tonight's just zoning and general plan. They will need to process major site plans in the future if they do any development, so I can add her to that mailing list.
Okay. So, so just so we're not speaking away from the podium, and I got to sort out my meeting rules, but ultimately I would have you encourage, and maybe what we can do is staff can try and create some sort of like just notification. Hey, stuff's going on. I know there's social media posts and things that people do get notified. But the best thing to do would be to either contact the city and or visit the city website for additional information so they're included. If we had to mail or email or notify every single resident about every single topic, then we would be very upset with the taxes going up and all the postage and paper and everything that would go out. So we got to kind of balance that. But you could, I would say, bring up those concerns about maybe widening that or bringing that up to the city as a concern. At this moment, is there anybody else for this agenda item as far as outside of notification in regards to the zoning like to speak to this agenda item? Okay, I will close the public portion. We'll address, I think you had some additional questions for the next agenda item or the next topic in regards to berms and things like that, correct? So you can come back up at that time. No, did I miss something? What it's going to be used for?
Yeah, how much of the 2,100 acres?
Okay, so I'm going to close the public portion. Would the applicant or a representative be able to speak to that?
I think we'll get into that in the.
We're going to get into that in the next
zoning.
presentation?
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if
So we'll
it's
add to that
appropriate.
in the next one, and if it's not answered, we'll make sure that it's specifically addressed. All right, public portion is closed. Commission.
I'd like to make a motion to forward DSA-21-00150 as a major general plan amendment, change the land use from commerce and business to neighborhoods to manufacturing industry.
Recommendation to the city council.
Recommend forward to city council.
So I have a motion for a favorable recommendation to council.
Second.
Any discussion?
I think, if my recollection is correct, it was in the dispatch. There was an article or two about it. So there's another spot that we should all be more aware of, should be aware of and watch.
Any other discussion? Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Aye.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Chairman Miller,
Yes. There will also be another opportunity at council. So if there's other people in your community, let them know that this will be going in front of council. All right. Where are DSA 20-00203? Missed one.
There's a correction on that. That was, it's DSA 21-00191.
So there was a change to
My
my
typo.
agenda. Okay. Then that one.
Rose Law Group is requesting a PAD zone change from Copper Mountain Ranch Planned Area Development to Cactus Mine Planned Area Development for approximately plus or minus 2,140 acres, generally located south of Val Vista between Burris Road and Corrales Road. You can see the location shown on the zoning map below. As discussed, Arizona Sonoran Copper Company is working to reopen the Cactus Mine. To accomplish this, Arizona Sonoran is seeking to rezone the property from its existing zoning as Copper Mountain Ranch PAD to Cactus Mine PAD. The purpose of the request is to provide the potential mining activities, buffer areas, and viewshed berms intended to limit views of the mine. In looking at the review criteria, we cover the following criteria. All of it's been covered in the staff report. We'll just concentrate on the highlighted ones for this evening's presentation. First is conformance to the city's general plan. As mentioned in the previous presentation, the general plan will need to be approved prior to the zoning being approved for this request. Second is conformance to the city's zoning ordinance. As a guide to reviewing this PAD zoning, staff looked to ensure it's compatible with appropriate industrial zoning categories. This PAD addresses specific uses and standards associated with mining activities. The city's zoning ordinance requires a conditional use permit with any excavation of ore within the I-2 General Industrial Zone District. This PAD does implement standards and criteria that could or would be applied as a condition to the request for mining activities, in essence, eliminating the need for a conditional use permit and embedding it within the PAD guide itself. Just want to highlight again, the surrounding zoning for this property is all residentially zoned at the current time. It's either in a PAD or in urban ranch zone districts. And then there is a portion of the mine that still abuts the county land down to the south there. That's relevant because regarding setbacks, staff and the applicant worked to ensure that the expansion of the mine mitigated any potential adverse impacts on surrounding properties. Staff and the applicant settled on the following conditions: amend setbacks for open pit mining to 1,000 feet from any residentially zoned property and 200 feet from all other zone districts. B is to amend setbacks for future waste rock and leach pad areas to 1,000 feet from residentially zoned property. Said setback may be eliminated with the provision of a berm with the following characteristics: equal or greater than the height of the waste rock leach pad height. The berm with the following needs to be equal or greater in height to the waste rock or leach pad height. Number 2, must utilize a maximum slope of 3:1 on the public view face of the slope. Number 3 is the berm must be vegetated to appear as a natural landscape. And then the third item is amend setbacks for waste rock and leach pad to 200 feet from non-residentially zoned property. So just to get an idea of what we're actually trying to screen from, you can see the open pit mine in the first picture. The leach pad is going to be to the right of it, and then the rock storage piles has also got the amended setbacks. So the second criteria is open space and/or public land dedications. Arizona Sonora will provide a regional trail dedication along its northern boundary abutting Val Vista. You can see it highlighted in the blue there. They will also be constructing a portion of the city's regional trail through the northern and eastern portion of the site. You can see the red there, so that will be constructed with the first phase of any major site plan or any construction that happens within this area. And then they'll also be responsible for providing any dedication of right-of-way that mainly will apply to Corrales and to Val Vista. In regards to notification, again, yeah, we can also cover the berm. You can see the highlighted white and green there, that's the stripes through it. That's actually the berm that's being proposed with this amended zoning at the current time. That'll be 100 feet tall. And I think it's 600 feet wide there, and then additional buffer area on the outside of it. In regards to notification, public hearing efforts met or exceeded all city requirements. Again, it was the same inquiry with no comments. So in conclusion, staff recommends the commission forward a recommendation to approve DSA 2100191, a zone change from the Copper Mountain Ranch planned area development to the Cactus Mine planned area development with the following conditions and technical corrections. We covered most of those. We did ask them to clarify some of their annual water usage and source within the PAD document. And we're also having them incorporate any of our previous review comments from our first review, which are mostly just technical changes. The second, the conditions of record would be our standard dedication language, and also the dedication of and record of an easement for the regional trail meeting the standards from our city's regional trail master plan. Any questions that I can answer on this one?
Questions for staff?
I got one. You go back to that picture where they show the truck dumping. Okay. Okay, so they're gonna have a whole bunch of those trucks dumping stuff up next to the beam so that nobody sees it. It can't, and that stuff cannot get above the height of the beam. Is that correct?
The berm, yeah, the
Yeah,
berm would have to
okay.
meet the size of the rock storage.
Okay. Is there gonna be a noise factor of these trucks are 100-ton trucks, and the emissions and the noise factor, because of, you got neighborhoods within 600 feet of there, there's gonna be a noise factor of being these heavy trucks in there, running probably 24 hours a day?
Yeah, I'll let the applicant answer the question on how much they'll be running. I will say that you can see here kind of the existing mine, and these are kind of general outlines of it. It's a really large site, so the highlighted green line is 75 feet, which for some of the mining activity in the buildings and things like that can be located in that area. Then there's a blue line that represents 200 feet. The red line represents 1,000 feet. With the construction of that berm being 600 feet wide, we've got a pretty large buffer mitigating any of the sound impacts, visual impacts on surrounding properties. So we've really worked with the applicant to make sure that we were mitigating any of those major issues with surrounding property.
Okay. Any other questions? No? All right. At this time, then, I would like to invite the applicant and/or their representative to come back on up forward here and maybe answer some more questions.
Thank you, Commissioner and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. If I may, I think I can answer the question that one of the nearby neighbors asked.
Sure.
So her question was how much of the land area would be mined. And so this land is still being evaluated for its mineral deposit, and that's kind of a long process. And so the specific acreage that will be mined is yet to be determined. However, we can say that the existing open pit will only be minimally expanded outwards. We've stated in our PAD narrative that it would be up to 10 acres. And as you saw in the landscape berm, the landscape berm would screen that existing open pit and any expansion of that. And it would also offer protection. It would work as a safety measure. As far as the remainder of the site, if there would be any additional mining that would take place, all of that mining would take place underground. And all of the tunneling to do that underground mining would begin from the existing open pit. And so it would be basically not visible.
I think if I remember correctly, in our last, and in the special meeting that we had at the rec center, the milling, or the tailings, the tailings on the south section there where it says South WRD of the existing tailings, you guys were gonna go through some of that, so which is even further away, machinery and things like that are even further away from the neighborhoods that exist up off of Val Vista. Is that correct?
So I do know that there's quite a bit of distance. That's correct. Okay, so Ian's saying that's correct.
So a lot of the mining is either behind the berm or to the southern end of the property.
Exactly. Yeah. So the mining, so some of the mining will take place in the existing open pit mine that's there already, and that's already has quite a bit of distance from any of the nearest residential. While there are some residentially zoned areas in the immediate surroundings of the property that we're rezoning, none of that is developed currently. And so I would think that, obviously there will be some noise with any kind of construction, but there is a pretty significant amount of distance between any existing residential. And so I don't know if Ian or Travis want to speak to any of the engineering that comes along with constructing the view shed berm or the rock storage or anything like that, but I personally don't think it's too much of a concern at this time.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, are you a 24-hour operation? Is it gonna run 24 hours a day?
Yes.
Which one, and how about your water situation? Here in Arizona, we're in a drought. We can't get water to build houses because of 100-year water supply. What's your water situation with this mine?
So that's a very important question, of course. Definitely want to be considerate of water. Travis is the expert on the water situation, so I'll ask him to come to the podium. That's okay.
I wasn't there, I'm sorry, guys.
It takes from the water table that is not usable.
There was plenty of water.
Travis Snyder.
I'm sorry.
So we're anticipating using about 1,040 acre feet per year, which is drastically lower than what other mines actually use, and it's quite lower than what agricultural would use for a property that's similar for our size. So they'd use about 3,700 acre feet.
Okay, thank you.
Can you touch base about, real quick, just to add to the water, if I remember from the last presentation about the recycling, reuse, as well as which aquifer you're getting it from?
That is correct.
Just for additional information?
So we plan to recycle 100% of our water. We're a zero discharge facility, and we actually are pulling from a second aquifer. That's not from the aquifer that everybody pulls from here. It's a deeper aquifer. It's about 2,000 feet below ground, and it is one that is contaminated with heavy metals, which is not suitable for agricultural, residential, or livestock.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, I have a question, I'm sorry.
Sure.
On the water issue, have you thought about hooking up or contacting with the city of Casa Grande with their wastewater and going that route too?
We're actually going to start talks with Larry about that. I've sent him an email to talk about using effluent water.
Okay.
It's better than that water you're pumping out of the ground. So I hear.
Thank you.
Yes, Member Benedict.
So, and I apologize if I'm sure this has been said, but the distance, remind me, the distance from the berm to the outer edge, the pink line, what was that distance?
Well,
The berm itself is 600 feet wide, and I believe that's about 1,000 feet on the north and onto the east side of the berm.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Technically for the applicant, I guess, because it's still his floor, but, no? All right. So at this time then, I will open it up to the public. Anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Do we answer your questions? You can say no and come up. It's okay. That's why we have a public hearing. Come on up. I just want to make sure that we are clarifying information for you.
So I don't know that we really answered the question regarding how much of the 2,100 acres is going to be mined, and I understand that's a floating target, but it might be nicer to narrow that down a bit. Can we?
0.
That's right. No. Just stay up there. We'll get. Hang on. Well, I'll bring you back up in case she's got other questions you need to answer. We'll bring you up after she's done, and hopefully you get full clarification. Okay.
Regarding the beautification on the barriers and now this, the berm, and I assume the tailings also. There's been a lot of work done out there since you guys started. There's taller, I don't know if they're berms, I don't know if they're tailings. I really am not a miner. But nothing's been done as far as revegetation that I can see on any of that. Is that true or false? And when are we gonna start? And on this great big berm that's going across Val Vista, not across Val Vista, but down Val Vista, when is the vegetation gonna start on that? Obviously, that's based on what you're planning, seasonal, all of that kind of thing. But I assume we're gonna have some kind of a timeline within a year of it being built, something reasonable. We don't need it 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I think we need it sooner than that, in my opinion, if I was gonna run the world. And I think, could you speak some more about the water usage? You said that you were tapping into a aquifer that's basically contaminated. So then that water is going to be pumped up, you're gonna be recycling it, you indicated, but is this a good thing? The leach ponds, I assume, are all going to be state-of-the-art because we're putting a lot of money into this, they better work good. But we don't want, we as humans, I don't think, want to have that water that we already know is contaminated, and it's not good for farming, it's not good for animals, it's not good for humans. We want to make sure it's staying away from all of us, in my opinion. I think I'm done. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So we're going to invite the applicant back up. We got another one. We're going to get off. Let's ask about the economy, just so we can get all of you up
Sure.
here, right?
Why not? Thanks for having us here tonight. We really appreciate it. Ian McMullen, I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Arizona Sonoran. Address 850 West Elliott Road, Suite 106, Tempe, Arizona. So to answer the first question, the lady postulated about of the 2,100 acres, how much actual mining will occur on that? That's an easy number, 0. All our mining will occur within our county limits as defined by our mine as it sits today. That being said, there's disturbance being planned, as Mr. Horn has demonstrated, of that viewshed berm that goes around the property. And we want to build that pretty much early on in construction when we start, which, by the way, is about, call it 2 years down the road, once we get all our technical studies completed. But we want to build that right out of the gate first so that we can mitigate any issues, any concerns with respect to noise, dust, general mining activity, especially as it relates to our neighbors to the northeast. As far as the vegetation is concerned, once that berm is built, we would obviously vegetate it right away with natural desert shrubbage, if you will. And as far as the site is concerned, when the trust had it and we came on the scene and worked out a deal to buy the site, that that kicked off the remainder of, what's called site improvement activity. And that leach pad, you can see, if you're looking at this screen on the left-hand side, on the west side of the property, that was fully reclamated in the sense that it was covered with about 8 inches of alluvium material and hydroseeded across its entire sort of 500-acre facility. So a lot of reclamation work has been done there, and we will continue to do reclamation work as we advance development of the site. As far as the water is concerned, yeah, I get it. Water's a big deal. But in our dealings with sort of the ADEQ and understanding the aquifers in the Pinal AMA, the deeper aquifer is heavily contaminated to the point where it's not conducive to residential or agricultural use. It is good for processed water, much like the effluent water from, possibility from the city. But we take water very seriously, and we take discharge events very seriously. And through all our design and detailed engineering, everything that water will run on, unless it's a meteoric event, will be on plastic. So when we build our leach pads, we build our waste dumps, when we build the areas where the water purposely runs into, it's all on plastic, so it doesn't contact the ground. So it's built to what's called bad cat standards within the state of Arizona. And that is the work that we do with ADEQ and, eventually state mine inspector when we put together our reclamation permit. So it's very stringent, and we're happy to follow that because, like I said, we don't want any water contacting the ground when we don't need to be. So.
Thank you.
I got some questions.
Yeah, Member Dugan.
So you said that your starting process would be about 2 years from now?
Yeah, so so what's happening right now is we're doing a lot of technical work. We have drills out at site. We're happy to do public tours anytime if you want to come out and see it. But we have drills at site. We're testing the ground to see, what the ore looks like around that existing open pit. From there, we'll put together a technical study called a Pre-Feasibility Study, which is what we're working on now. That process will take us through much of next year, and then, on from that is all the work to, finance to bring the property into production, so.
And if the copper prices are kind of high right now, so if the copper prices drop, then you guys will walk away from this?
No, we won't walk away with it because we own it now, so even if we didn't run it, there'd be care and maintenance of the facility. But the good thing about copper is, it's like you said, $4 plus a pound at the moment. Long-term fundamentals for copper are right around $3.50, and certainly what we're seeing, at this property is something south of that price. So the mine is economic, is what I'm telling you.
And what's your projection of, once you start, how long will it take to mine the copper out? Is it a 10-year process or 15 years?
Right now on the books, so we just put out what's called a preliminary economic assessment. It's filed on cdar.com. Anybody can go look at it. That's the preemptive strike, if you will, to get us in the PFS study. But that PEA projects an 18-year mine life.
18
years, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
So I never officially closed the public portion, so I will, is there anybody else from the public who would like to speak? So I'm going to close the public portion and bring it back to the commission. That would move the process along.
This is it right here.
Motions, comments, questions, any of those are good.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve DSA -21-00191 to make a zone change from the Copper Mountain Ranch Plan area to Cactus Mine Plan area development with the following conditions, to technical conditions from the staff, and this has to go to the city council, correct? and make a recommendation, move it forward to the city council.
So I have a motion to forward a recommendation of approval on this
Second.
agenda item,
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Yes.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. Thank you for being here this evening and raising questions.
Yeah.
We always enjoy public participation, so we appreciate that. All right, next agenda item is a 4-for-1. This is gonna be fun.
You guys are gonna be a little tired of me.
Really?
Yeah.
If we weren't already.
Right, yeah.
Okay, just making
Absolutely.
sure.
Let it clear out and
Yeah.
All right. RVI Planning's requesting the following land use approvals. Minor general plan amendment for 19 acres of land from commerce and business, land use category to the neighborhoods land use category. A zone change for 127 acres of land from PAD to R2. A zone change for 24.8 acres of land from existing PAD to a new PAD. And a preliminary plat for 127 acres of land to create 487 single-family residential lots. The site is shown down below for all 4 of these applications. It's just off of Pinal Avenue and south of Rodeo Road. The first request is to amend the general plan from commerce and business to neighborhoods for 19 acres to ensure that the desired single-family residential product conforms to the 2030 general plan. Oh, excuse me. You can see the existing general plan is on your left. The proposed general plan amendment is on your right, just moving it into the neighborhoods land use category. When looking at the review criteria, we look at the following 7 criteria. We'll just cover the 2 that are highlighted tonight. First is describe how the proposed amendment enhances or has no net impact on future water supplies. The change to neighborhoods from commerce and business should not have an impact on water supply and potentially would use less than a commercial development. In addition, the site was previously entitled to provide single-family residential and has existing certificates of assured water supply. The applicant is working with ADWR to ensure that they have adequate water supply to support an increase in the number of homes. This will be verified by city staff at the time of the final plat submittal. The second one is describe in detail how any of the general plan goals and/or action steps are achieved by the proposed amendment. It meets at least the goals provided there, if not among others. I'm just going to cover a couple real quick. Goal P-1, provide high-quality parks, trails, and open spaces located throughout Casa Grande. And we'll cover some of that a little bit later. Goal LM-3, encourage pedestrian-friendly walkable developments. That will also be covered. And then goal CB-2, improve site design in commercial and industrial locations, particularly those along higher value corridors. The second application is requesting a zone change from existing Santa Cruz Village PAD to R2. Currently, the PAD is predominantly intended for single-family residential development, entitled for 387 single-family homes on individual lots at a density of 2.4 dwelling units per acre. You can see the location of the zoning request on your right-hand slide. That will be going to the R2 zoning. The R2 zone allows single-family homes on 5,000 square foot lots, 45 feet wide and 90 feet deep, with 5-foot side yard setbacks. By comparison, the existing PAD would require lots to be no smaller than 6,000 square feet with a lot width of 55 feet. For every lot less than 7,000 square feet, you would need to provide an equal number of lots greater than 8,000 square feet. One side setback in the PAD would require 10 feet, while the other is a 5-foot setback. So it's a little bit narrower setbacks and smaller lots. Is this additional flexibility within the R2 zone that is prompting this request? The benefit of the PAD zone is that it is subject to design standards establishing architectural standards and physical layout considerations such as landscaping, open space, walls. Therefore, staff has recommended certain conditions of record for the zone change to ensure quality design and product is provided for this site. When looking at the review criteria, we cover the following 3 criteria. The first is that the action is consistent with the city's general plan. This zone change has been submitted with the previously discussed request to amend a portion of the area from commerce and business land use to the neighborhood land use area. This request shall be contingent on the approval of that general plan amendment request as well. The second one is a rezoning conforms to the general plan if it proposes land uses, densities, or intensities within the range of identified uses. Single-family developments with homes on individual lots shall have a maximum gross density of 4.5 dwelling units per acre. The pre-plat provided with this submittal is indicating that density at 3.6 dwelling units per acre. So it meets that standard. And the third one is that the proposed zone change is necessary and proper at this time to meet the land use needs of the residents of the city. The zone change will allow for the development of 487 single-family homes located near Rodeo Park in a highly visible area of the city of Casa Grande. It's going to be a real benefit, this neighborhood, for the city, and we think it's a good development in all the acreage, including the PAD that we'll cover in the next slide presentation. Additionally, the state requires that before adopting any zoning ordinance or amendment of general applicability, the city shall consider the impact on the cost to construct housing. Because the properties were previously zoned PAD, the conditions being imposed do not appear to negatively impact the cost of producing housing. Furthermore, the addition of lots could make for better economies of scale, which may actually reduce the net cost to the owners of developing the property. The third submittal is a request to amend 24.8 acres to be zoned PAD. The request is intended to accommodate 19.1 acres for a build-to-rent development with a maximum density of 12 dwelling units per acre and a 5.7 acre commercial development site to be located on the southwest corner of Rodeo and Pinal. You can see the site located up in that northeast corner of the project. And this is a conceptual plan for it. You can see the build-to-rent product in the rear and then the commercial pads abutting Pinal. So it does make a good transition into the single-family residential from that commercial. When looking at the review criteria for a PAD, we look at the following review criteria. We'll just cover the 2 highlighted tonight. First one is conformance to the city's zoning ordinance. The proposed PAD provides 2 primary land uses. The first is the build-to-rent, the second is the commercial. The build-to-rent portion of the submittal has been created utilizing our recently updated 2021 residential design standards. The commercial area is primarily utilizing and deferring to the standards provided within the general business zoning for the city. Staff will ensure all design standards are met at the time of the major site plan submittal. The next criteria is the adequacy of the plan with respect to land use. The plan is not anticipated to have any adverse impact with respect to land use. The list of uses and the standards put in place for the PAD are all compatible with the site and the surrounding area. Staff believes this PAD will create a compatible project and enhance the surrounding area. The final submittal is the preliminary plat proposing 487 single-family lots. The site was previously issued certificate of assured water supply as mentioned for 387 lots. The increase in lots and associated cause may be allowed through ADWR if the applicant can provide data that proves the increase in lots does not utilize more water than the 387 lots for which the original cause was issued. In looking at the review criteria for a preliminary plat, we look at the following criteria. The first is conformance to the general plan and zoning. As mentioned, the open space is a requirement of our general plan and our zoning. You can see here the networks of sidewalks and paths and trails that they're showing. It includes, down on the bottom highlighted in yellow, is our regional trail through the Santa Cruz Wash that they'll be providing. I also wanted to point out that they've got 5 pocket parks within that, within the plat, and there's a lot of open space. You can see an example of their entrance down in that bottom corner. You can see the amenities that they're providing within the plat submittal and their landscape plan, including ramadas and play areas. The second one is the drainage pattern and accommodation of developed flows. Drainage report was provided and reviewed by our development center engineer. The conclusion of the drainage report confirmed that the drainage requirements and infrastructure for the project meet the design standards of the city. However, there are portions of this site that are in the 100-year floodplain. So prior to approval of that final plat, the applicant will need to provide proof that a LOMAR has been approved by FEMA and that the building pads are all removed from the flood zone. You can see the flood zone shown on the image, and then you overlay, and this is how they're going to correct and amend that flood zone. So the park will be right outside, the trail is going to be to the south of the actual neighborhood, and all those pads will be brought up above the flood area. In regards to notification, again, we met or exceeded all requirements. We did not receive any comments for this particular, these requests. So in conclusion, staff recommends the commission forward a recommendation to approve DSA 2100165, a minor general plan amendment for plus or minus 19 acres of land from the commerce and business land use category to the neighborhoods land use category. Second application, staff recommends the commission forward a recommendation to approve DSA 2100166, a zone change for 127 acres of land from PAD to R2 with the following summarized conditions. They were all covered in your staff report. Third one is staff recommends the commission forward a recommendation to approve DSA 2100167, a zone change for 24.5 acres of land from PAD to PAD with the following conditions. That's our standard right-of-way condition. And then we did add a condition that all buildings located within that project should be architecturally styled to achieve harmony and continuity of design throughout the Santa Cruz Village. And then the fourth one is staff recommends commission approve DSA 2100168, a preliminary plat for 127 acres of land to create 487 single-family residential lots with the following technical corrections. Amend the preliminary plat to show phasing. That way they could develop the northern portion before the southern portion gets the LOMAR completed, so they could move forward with the project sooner than waiting for that LOMAR, because that is a lengthy process. The second one is show dedication for the regional trail, meeting the requirements of the city's trail master plan. The third one is place the following note on the plat: a final plat shall not be approved for any lot located within the 100-year floodplain nor floodway areas until a LOMAR is approved by FEMA. Any questions?
Chairman, I have a question.
Member.
Joe, you mentioned that we're going to approve this preliminary plat without a certificate of assured water. Is that common that you guys do this at the final plat submittal? Because at the county, it isn't done that way. So I just wanted to ask that question. Is
Yeah,
it?
it's a requirement to have it on the final plat.
Okay.
To actually sign the final plat, we need to confirm that the cause has been issued and is appropriate.
Okay.
One other point of clarification on that. So this property already has a cause,
Right.
but they're
It
going to
just
try
isn't
to
a-
increase it.
The capacity
right?
isn't enough, right?
So I assume they're already in process with ADWR to increase that, but then that certainly just has to be done before the final plat's approved.
And then I just had one other question about access from the commercial to the build to rent to the residential. The only continuity is between the build to rent to the residential, but there isn't any access to the commercial from the residential?
So,
Or am I missing a link?
yeah, you can see on the slide shown
But
right
there's
there
nothing
that
to
the primary entrance is off of Pinal Avenue into both the commercial and the single-family for rent. There's also, the commercial has a separate entrance into it, just on the far west side of the commercial, and then a quarter way down into the commercial site. I believe conceptually, there's pathways and pedestrian access throughout the entire project.
Okay.
But that's a conceptual layout right now, so it's not necessarily the final layout of the outcome.
Right, we're only looking at the plating for the residential portion, the single family.
Any other questions? No? What, in theory, I guess, because we're looking at some conceptual things, with this change, we're increasing to the 487, and then taking a portion out and adding in a single-family rental, which has the ability for, you'd have to remind me of the number of dwellings per unit,
It's at 12.
12 in that section. And so then we're,
It's approximately 240 units, maybe, max,
so 600
a little
and
less than that.
600
650
50 units.
Yeah, 700 units.
So we're going from 300 and something to 600 and something. It's a lot of units.
Is the reason why you're increasing this, is it, who are we going after? Is this for like low to moderate income people? For these smaller lots that you're gearing towards? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
It does, so I think that's probably a better question for the applicant.
Okay.
And I don't know if he has builders lined up, but, you know, in today's market, we're probably talking $300,000 houses
Well, that was my next question.
just to start.
Because this area is in the low to moderate for Casa Grande. And so there's a lot of CRA credit that borrowers can get to purchase homes. And I was just wondering if that's what we're gearing towards.
Butts up against the lakes. It's just down the street from Coyote Ranch.
Well, it just so happens I'm doing a loan right now.
Yeah,
Right
then
next to Coyote Ranch, whatever, I can't remember the name of the subdivision. That's low to moderate. And I get credit for that, so that's why I'm wondering.
I can answer a
if
couple of
that's-
those questions.
What are you gonna answer?
Well, they can, but, look, basically those 12 units to an acre, those are basically apartments, but they're
Right.
called horizontal apartments, and they don't need a 100-year water supply. So they took the water from there that were originally homes and put it back in over here, and that's how they get their 100-year water supply.
Okay.
So you basically got a little commercial, you got apartments, and you've got houses around the apartment. So that's the logic of the thing. That's why.
Well, no, the entire area was 300 and some odd. We
but-
increased density, increased number of units, and increased now commercial.
Yeah.
Like
But
they didn't
basically,
take
you've got
anything.
an apartment complex. If you put up high-rise apartments, that's what you get. That's usually what happens up in the valley. Apartments and houses are built around them.
No, I understand that. We're just, originally, the entire 127 acres was given 300 and
I don't understand.
whatever it was, lots.
387, yeah.
387?
Yeah.
Well, we discussed this in a previous meeting about a loophole in the certificate of assured water supply situation, and this is the loophole.
Right. This loophole added a whole new level, because then they removed a portion of that residential and converted it to commercial and added an additional apartment complex on top of it. The other one just took the existing and added more lots, if that makes sense. They didn't change anything. The residential was the residential. But here we're taking a portion of the residential out, if I'm understanding the presentation correctly, converting it to commercial and adding even more density on top of that. Is that correct? Or did I misunderstand?
No, that's correct.
Okay, just so I'm understanding, okay. So that's the difference from the other new Arizona water regulation.
Okay, I misunderstood.
What's the smallest, on the homes, what's the smallest lot? Do you have to be 7,000 square feet?
No, it's 5.
5.
It's
It's
5,000.
5,000 square feet's the smallest they could go. They're proposing 45 by 120 and 50 by 120 lots in this particular plat. So
Small.
they're a little bit larger than the 5,000.
So with that, then the housing becomes more affordable because the lots are
That's
smaller,
what I was asking.
correct?
That's
There'd
what I
be
was
more
trying
for
to get at.
affordable housing,
And
which we need.
In theory.
In theory.
It does make the property's more affordable, and it is the new market. It's driven by the market at this current time, that this is what we're seeing as
They
a
could be
request.
building extremely nice homes within here. We
Yeah.
don't know what it's.
And the space limits between the two are still 20 feet, 10 and 10, or was it, how many?
10 and 5.
5 and 5.
5 and 5.
From 10 and 5 was the original one?
Yeah, the initial PAD, the residential design guidelines for PADs would be 5 and 10. So the R2 zone district allows 5 and 5, same front and same rear setbacks.
Member Benedict.
Well, to where Celeste was kind of going, this is an example of both of the loopholes that we've just seen, that we have recently seen. One is the cause are being increased, the lots allowed are being increased, and the other one is this rent. You know, and to Commissioner Dugan's point, this could be an apartment complex, which would be, you know, the same kind of a thing, but
Currently it can't though. Currently it's zoned residential.
It's currently.
I mean, obviously, they
Currently,
could still build an
PAD.
apartment complex on it, but they wouldn't want to get rid of their cause. They'd have to go through different changes. But ultimately, I think that's where I'm trying to wrap my head around. We're all about trying to get more housing, and we're all about utilizing our water credits. And now we've doubled down on that in this section. So- Okay.
I'm good.
I got clarification from things I wanted, I guess. Any other questions for staff? No? All right, well, let's let the applicant come forward. He's been chomping at the bit to come up here. I mean, he's like giving me nonverbals here.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name is Kyle Barkella with RVI Planning and Landscape Architecture. Our office is at 120 Ash Avenue, Suite 201 in Tempe, Arizona. Very grateful to be here tonight and talk about this project, and I made a note of all the questions that were asked, so I'm happy to address these. I'm representing Mr. Deacon, who's actually owned this property for 37 years. He once said it was a short-term investment. That was obviously not the case here. I'm also accompanied by Chris Moore with Sunrise Engineering. Be happy to answer every question that you have as it relates to the cause, water usage, and what have you. So first, I would just like to start with just kind of thanking Joe and for the presentation, because he clarified a lot of things, but there were a few minor misunderstandings in terms of what that corner was previously approved for. So as the Santa Cruz Village PAD, the original PAD slated 134 acres of single-family residential. So that's the existing footprint that you see on there right now, and that 29 acres approximately right there was slated for all commercial. So the second portion of this request tonight just takes approximately 19 acres of that originally slated commercial and changes that to the PAD for that build-to-rent product, and then preserves that commercial corner as part of that. That's the first thing that I mentioned. In terms of the access to the commercial site and not combining with the build-to-rent product, in the development of the numerous build-to-rent products that we have across the valley, it's not typical that they provide connections via driveways between the commercial and the build-to-rent, primarily because these are private, but we will be providing pedestrian access points. And as you see off of Pinal Avenue, we have kind of a shared access point with that single-family residential. There will be appropriate signage, it'll be matched, it'll be a very uniform development, so it'll look and feel like it is connected. However, it will be gated once you get to that primary entryway. In terms of the increase of traffic and the location and really the nexus for bringing this up to speed is it's primarily located on Pinal Avenue, 387, in a very desirable location in the city of Casa Grande. It's highly accessible of the site. The commercial has prime access points. We've worked with the city's traffic engineer to ensure that we've met all requirements between deceleration lanes and what have you. And we actually already have approval from ADOT on the TIA, so we've been very thorough with ensuring that this isn't going to add any negative impact in terms of capacity because of the increase of these lots. In terms of the single-family development itself, right now, across the valley, there's a huge housing shortage. We can't build homes fast enough. So when these home builders are looking at some of these properties, they're trying to identify the specific markets to where they pick the type of product that's being used. So Mr. Deacon, what he does is he speaks with a land broker who's in close connection to these home builders, and they start to kind of create a match for what's most appropriate for the area based on the market analysis that they've done. While there is no home builder specifically in tow at this time, the overwhelming response is the 45 by 115s and the 50 by 120s are the perfect fit for this specific community. And the distribution of that is about 328 45 wide lots and 157 50 wide lots. In terms of starting price for the homes, since they are lower, it tends to be more on the lower side of the spectrum, but that doesn't mean there's no specific number that I can give you in terms of what the starting prices for those homes are. As you know, the market is changing. Supply chains are a big factor in the development of these homes on the property. And really the last thing I would say is, because of this request, what we've done is we looked at the existing entitlements that we have, and we made improvements to the open spaces. We wanted to provide parks, pedestrian connections where there weren't there before. We're increasing the open space. Now we're at 31% open space for that single family. We're preserving that trail connection along the south of the property and ensuring that all development is completely out of that floodplain, and ensuring that what we're currently entitled to in terms of the assured water supply, what we're asking is fully within all the requirements of ADWR. And I also have the engineer here as well to chime in, and I'm happy to answer any other questions that you may have.
Questions for the applicant? Joe, can you flip back to the original? There was the purple strip. Is it the entire length of Pinal is currently commercial? Correct. So in my, you made a point
So
that.
while Joe brings that up, what you're referring to is the general plan graphic. And so the PAD did not have commercial across the whole frontage, I don't believe. It was larger than what the commercial is being proposed today, but all the blue was not commercial. That's the general plan.
The one on the left is the general plan.
Yeah, both of the general
The
plan.
one on the right is also a general plan.
Yes, because they're amending the general plan.
So we
right?
don't have a current existing.
We don't have a graphic of the
okay.
current PAD now, sorry.
That's all right. But you're actually reducing the commercial. Is that correct? I'm trying to read my note here on the agenda.
That is correct,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, just I'm trying to wrap my head around all the clarifications here, because then I misspoke or misunderstood initially thinking we were.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, just provide additional clarification on that. So right now, that area all along Pinal Avenue is actually, it's 35 acres. And what we're doing is reducing that 35 acres down to 19 for the commercial and preserving that. And one thing I did want to note that the previous 2020 general plan did have that southern portion as neighborhoods. So with the updated 2030 plan, it did change to that business and commerce. So what in our thoughts behind that is originally when this in 2002 when this was approved for the residential, it made sense to have that as neighborhoods. But as time passed and no action was taken on the property, it was the city's perspective that it was likely that that be developed as business, commerce and business. However, due to the changing markets, there's not enough support to really support that commerce and business designation. So we're requesting to go back to the original neighborhoods just for that lower southern portion.
Thank you.
How many apartments are in that thing? 231? 231?
That's roughly the number, yes.
Guesstimation currently.
Okay.
Because it's not currently being proposed. It's just being rezoned or rededicated to a PUD.
So, just, yeah, get me in the right square here. The build to rent and the commercial that you're proposing now is replacing just the current commercial PUD. It's not spilling into the residential, current residential section. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so you're replacing that commercial with a little bit of commercial and this build to rent.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah,
The commercial is 5 acres, right?
that's correct.
Kyle, are there any improvements being done on 387 for the residential portion? As far as a right turn lane or?
Yeah. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, yes, I actually I took a snippet from the summary from ADOT, so I'll just read it there. So in terms of, I unfortunately don't have kind of the access shown, but there are going to be off-site improvements on SR 387 in accordance with ADOT standards and specification. Dwayne's over here, and he could also kind of comment on that, but that would include dedicated deceleration for left turns and right turns into that property.
Sounds good.
Dwayne, if you could reassure me, DADOT is a big fan of right in, right out onlys, correct?
And roundabouts, I'm sure.
Well, their driveway actually meets the requirements for full access where it is. So it's not a
Because it's
right.
far enough from the stoplight,
Pardon me?
stoplight distance, and you're happy with those multiple entry points within, I know we were trying to adopt certain new standards for business accesses and different things like that over certain distances away, and was it like every, we had a whole presentation on it.
The applicant was really good to deal with on location of driveways and everything. So we all, between ADOT and myself, we all agreed to where the driveways are, how the traffic will be handled.
And so for the main, if, just for clarification, the main entrance there with the, I'll call it the roundabout currently depicted, is the full access. The commercial, which is a secondary access into the commercial property, does not qualify for full access?
Are you talking off of Rodeo?
No, on Pinal. So there's two accesses, the main one into the neighborhoods and apartments, and then there's a small one into the commercial.
Yeah, I believe that's a right in, right out,
Okay?
because there's a raised median in there.
Yeah, yeah, and just making sure we're not making
we didn't
other
wanna-
changes to the existing.
Right, we didn't want to make any breaks in the raised median.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
So all these houses and apartments go left, you have to go to Rodeo Road to take a left. There's no way of getting out, other than going to Rodeo Road to make a left. You can't, this is only right out.
This
is
one-
right out, though.
This one qualifies for full access. So whether they built full access as far as, because there is a median there, right? So they would even have to, they'd have to make improvements at that, I don't even know the name of that, the Saga Trail, Biznaga Trail.
They can make a left-hand turn going on the canal there?
Assuming they made the improvements to Pinal. Currently, there is not access to do that. But they would, if they wanted to pay to create a left turn out of there,
As I remember, we were allowing the left turn,
yeah,
them to make a left turn break there and they raised median.
they just have to make the improvements, because there's currently a
That is correct.
rock landscape median type thing.
You're right.
Okay.
Engineering, the State Highway Department plans to put that 6-lane eventually, correct?
Yes, Pinell is a future 6-lane roadway. So that's our access control policy that we use, takes into account that that will be a future 6-lane roadway. So the locations of the driveways fit our access control for that size of a road.
Are you gonna have a decel lane on Pinell Avenue as they come from the going south on there as they drive
Yes.
in? Yeah,
Yes.
they are, decel lane, okay, got it.
You want to ask about a right turn lane on Rodeo?
No, I'm talking right now, it doesn't, I thought you said there was no left-hand turn, you can't get out of
I'm
that.
just giving you a hard time about your right turn.
You know, no more caffeine.
No more caffeine before the meetings.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant? No? All right, thank you. Thank you very much for your clarifications. All right, so at this time, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to come and speak to this agenda item? By all means, come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Nancy Wood, and the address is 513 East Beckel Road, Casa Grande, Arizona. And I wanted to voice my concern about the changes in the lot sizes and reducing the sizes of the single-family homes in many of these applications, not just this one, but all of them. I don't see it as an advantage to the city to let the developers reduce the lot sizes when we have a limited supply of single-family places that are going to be able to have that kind of designation as far as the water use and such. And putting in more residential lots in these areas is going to create a lot more traffic as far as parking and the small streets that are often put into these subdivisions. Now you can hardly drive up and down the streets, or people don't have room to park. Because a number of people now are living in multifamily situations where it's not just a family, it's maybe teenagers, other people, and so you have a number of cars on these single-family homes now. And just in decreasing the size is going to compact all that down and make it even more congested. And we already have places that we're not going to be able to do that, where it would be more suitable for apartments and multi-use for that kind of development that we can't put single-family homes on. So I'm against decreasing the lot sizes on all these projects. One concern I have about this particular project is that on Rodeo Road, we have the rodeo grounds, and you're going to have homes right across the street from a lot of activity. I would hope that there would be a better buffer off the road on that part. some concerns about, the flood control, and whether that's going to affect properties above or below, and how they're going to do that, if that's taken into consideration. And also for any of the land development, I always have my concerns for the wildlife in the area and how they're going to address that, with the fact that Casa Grande has a large number of burrowing owls that live within the city, and that all developers should be looking at surveying and making sure that there's adequate care taken for when they're going to do land movement, to make sure that they don't impact the owls in a negative way, that they could be relocated appropriately as designed by the U.S. Game and Fish, as they recommend. So I'm really against the decreasing the lot sizes from what we've already set aside. I don't think it's really an advantage to our city. I would prefer that we use other locations for increasing the density as multifamily homes and such in other areas where we can't have single-family homes. Once you give up the space for these single-family homes, you can't get it back. And it's an advantage that I think we need to keep for our city, and it's already been planned that way. And I don't think we should change it. Thank you.
Thank you. Interesting clock happening.
I know.
There. That was, you're definitely messing with me, the clock there. I'm sorry. Anybody else from the public like to speak to this agenda item? All right, seeing nobody, I'll close the public portion, and
Okay, one more question for the staff.
by all means.
Joe, they'll, on this picture that's up there, you had kind of the yellow lots and then the white lots. The white lots are bigger than the 5,000 square feet. They're in the 6,000 to 7,000 square feet, or are they all in the 5,000 square feet?
The white lots are, I believe, 6,000 square feet even.
How big?
6,000.
6,000. And the ones back here is about a little
They're
over 5,000.
115 by 45, so what, 5125? 5125 for the.
Okay.
for the other
Excellent
lots.
math off the top of your head.
Okay, thank you.
He's like, that was it. That was fantastic.
I've drawn a lot of lots in my life.
Sure. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
You want to go up to so we can make the motion with the
Just
numbers?
slide with it, yeah.
There we go. Where we want to start here.
You
got any questions?
No, not really. I understand what's going on. I understand the water issue. I understand the housing issue. I am still trying to wrap my head around going from 387 homes in this area to 767 approximately.
But one's an apartment complex.
Doesn't matter.
It's right. It's still. Why don't you call it whatever you want to call it? It's still going from 387 to 650 or 750. It's a lot of homes. But they own the land, and if
There's no apartments in this town. You can't get an apartment. They need apartments in this town. We are. So
he's trying.
I make a motion that we recommend to the city council to forward a recommendation to approve DSA-21-00165, amended general plan amendment for 19 acres of land from commerce to business land use category to neighborhoods land use category.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
None.
Hearing none. Natalie, would you call the roll?
Member Hubbard,
No.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
I share the chairman's concerns. But, we're, again, this landowner is following our rules, and we made them, so I have to vote aye.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
You know, it's all about letting people buy a house, and you gotta make the area a little smaller so they can afford the house. If you go with bigger lots and everything else, which is great, but we do have bigger lots here, but the whole thing is to make the houses affordable, so that's why I'm for this, so I'm gonna vote yes.
I concur.
Chairman Miller,
Yeah, no, I think it's a lot more than just lot size that goes into affordability, but that's a topic for another time. I vote yay or yes.
okay.
It's a lot of homes, but I appreciate the creativity and land use.
Mr. Chairman, I moved forward to the city council, the recommendation from this board to approve DSA-21-00166, a zone change from 127 acres of land to PAD R2 multifamily residential with the following summarized conditions from the staff.
Second.
You're getting really good at that, dude.
I know.
You're getting better at it.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Yes.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Chairman Miller,
Yes.
Move it up so we can read.
Need the next one.
Yeah. Okay. You want me to do it? Okay, I'll
Just
I'll
keep
make.
going, man. Let's go for all four, man. Four of a kind here. Let's do this.
I'll make a recommendation. We forward to the city council approval of DSA-21-00167, a zone change for 24 acres of land from PAD to PDD with the following condition from the staff.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Yes.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Chairman Miller,
Yes.
And the last one is make a recommendation to approve to the city council DSA-21-00168, preliminary plat for 126 acres of land to create 487 single-family residential lots with the following technical correction from the staff.
So just one point of
Yeah.
clarification on this one, you're not
Aye.
forwarding a recommendation.
Oh.
You're the final
just
Got to
decision
go to
maker.
city
A
council.
motion to approve.
This one,
Approve.
yeah, motion
Okay.
to approve.
Approve. I didn't know. I figured they all had to go to city council. Okay.
I second that approval.
Let me do my
Thank you.
job. Motion and a second. Any discussion?
No.
Yeah, this can't pass unless the city passes the others, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, so that's the condition I was looking for, but we all the attorney understands it, that's good.
Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard,
No.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Yes.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Chairman Miller,
Yes. All right. We knocked that out. We take a quick break. If that's all right with everybody?
Second.
All right. Motion is second. We're going to take a 2 to 5 minute recess here for everybody to just freshen up here. bring this thing back. And, where are we at here? DSA 21-00061, major site plan. Mr. Gagliardi.
Thank you, Chairman Miller, Planning Commissioners. So this is a major site plan request for a new build-to-rent community known as Hancock Cottonwood to be located at the northwest corner of Cottonwood Lane and Peart Road. You may recall back in September, Planning Commission forwarded to City Council a recommendation to approve an amendment to the G Diamond Ranch PAD for 31 acres to allow for a build-to-rent community. This past Monday, City Council did vote to approve this PAD amendment. The second reading is scheduled on November 15th. This evening, Planning Commission is asked to take the next step, which would be to consider the major site plan for this build-to-rent community. A little bit of background about it is it sits on approximately 31 acres. It's all single-story. It's a combination of duplexes as well as single-family detached units. 104 of those units are one-bedroom, and 227 units are two bedrooms. It will also be a gated community. This is an excerpt of the site plan that's been provided, specifically the preliminary landscape plan. This shows you the development's proposed access points. The primary access is going to be off of Cottonwood Lane, circled in green. That's going to be a right-in, right-out due to the fact that there's a median, a raised median in Cottonwood Lane. Colorado Street, to the west, identified with the purple circle, will have full access. Of course, all these entrance points are gated, but there's ability for full turn movements there. And at Peart Road, it's more designed for emergency access for right-outs. Also, on the right, you see a little sampling of the various elevation styles proposed for the bungalows or cottages. It's a mixture of both single-family and two-family structures. Some include garages that are attached to the homes. There will be detached garages throughout the community, as well as carports and open parking. This gives you an up-close look at the amenity area, which includes an outdoor fireplace and a hot tub and pool. And they have a grand porte-cochere entrance at Cottonwood Lane. One of the nice amenities to build-to-rent communities is the fact that they're like apartments and that they're rented, but it also gives residents there a feeling that they have their own space because there's a lot more detachment. There are duplexes there, but you don't tend to have neighbors, on both sides of you and above you and below you. The other nice aspect of build-to-rent communities is that they include enclosed backyards. On the right is an example of various backyards and how they're laid out behind the homes. Each one will include a tree for individual shade in the backyard areas. When reviewing major site plans, the following criteria have to be evaluated, and the staff report goes into each of these in more detail. These actually are very similar criteria that are looked at when reviewing PAD amendments, and so back in September I hit upon some of these as well. But I just want to focus on the two highlighted items this evening. The first criteria that I want to talk about is the relationship of the plan elements to conditions both on and off the property. So basically that speaks to compatibility. So to the west of the site, on the other side of Colorado Street, is a planned 317 lot portion of G Diamond Ranch. The final plat has already been approved, and they're going through the site development and public improvement permit stages right now to develop those lots. To the north of the site is also designated in the G Diamond Ranch PAD for single family. However, the area between Peart and Colorado does not have certificates of assured water supply. So it's unlikely that the area to the north will develop for single-family residential use. And it's more likely that either a non-residential use will be proposed or another multifamily project. But that said, the proposal for this area to be built for rent is very compatible because it serves as a nice buffer between the single family that has been approved on the other side of Colorado and the arterial roads of Peart and Cottonwood. The other criteria that I want to talk about is the conformance to the city's zoning ordinance. So as I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, this is in the middle of a PAD amendment process, and a PAD allows an applicant to propose a customized mix of uses and development standards. Planning Commission did recommend that this PAD be amended to allow a build-for-rent community, and City Council is between the first and second readings. And the PAD proposed does set forth the development standards that this major site plan is indeed meeting. It also speaks to the residential design standards that are found both in the 2003 residential design standards version and the recently updated 2021 residential design standards. Regarding the next steps, City Council will consider this PAD amendment for a second ordinance reading at its 11/15/2021 meeting. And then the next step after that is the applicant would provide administratively reviewed and considered site development permits, building permits. And of course, this would be subject to ultimately if City Council approves the PAD. Regarding the public notification efforts, it did meet that which is required by city code. I did want to point out that typically a sign is posted for major site plans. However, one was not posted for this, but it's not required by the code. There was a sign, and it's still present for the PAD amendment, so anyone generally curious about the project could make an inquiry to find out what associated hearings are for this project. Staff has received 2 comments from the public as a result of the notification efforts. Probably they received notice via mail, as notice was sent out to owners of property within 300 feet and also published in the dispatch. One comment was from a resident in the G Diamond community who supported this and thought it was a good fit. Another comment was from Marion Gilbert. She phoned to express opposition to multifamily development. She contended that the land should remain commercially designated to serve the large supply of homes coming to the area. Staff does recommend that Planning Commission approve this major site plan for Hancock Cottonwood, subject to City Council's approval of the PAD amendment, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? No? Okay. All right then. At this time then, would the applicant and or their representative like to speak to this agenda item? All right.
Chairman, members, commission, thank you for that little break. That was nice, and it's a nice little reset. But I'm DJ Stapley, representing Hancock Communities. I am with Pew and Lake PLC, and address 1744 South Alvista in Mesa 85204. I have a PowerPoint. I'll just breeze through it. The presentation was effective. You saw the detailed presentation at the September commission meeting, and so I'll just touch on a few points. Like other similar projects approved before, this is the single-story, single-family, gated rental community, attached and detached, primarily 2-bedroom units with a nice open space plan that exceeds standards. I'll note that the zoning has already been looked at, and so the discussion on land use context and so forth was already addressed, and I'm going to focus more just on the design elements and circulation, landscaping, and those items. Which way do I point? Here we go. So we're familiar with the site at Cottonwood and Peart Road, 31-acre site in the Diamond Ranch PAD. The existing zoning map, we discussed the zoning the other day. This is reducing the density on a multifamily 18-unit to the acre lot to 12 units to the acre and going further south towards a commercial parcel, which reduces the intensity there as well. The land use context being suitable for this arterial intersection. Here's the main focus of the presentation at this point. The gated community has primary entrance, as we know, on Cottonwood Lane with a nice formal tree-lined, median-divided entry with the portico, paver crossing, enhanced paving, and that leads to a nice view to the swimming pool, resort quality amenity area with spa, TV, fire pit, cabanas, and behind that open space. So this creates that nice promenade and an attractive amenity that's appropriate for this kind of community. It's upscale, it's nice quality, and creates that lifestyle that people are looking for this kind of development. Several elements exceed standards. Open space, where just over 2 is required, 10 is provided. And that doesn't count the backyards. That's another, I believe, 15% of the site. And perimeter landscaping creates a nice soft feel around the edges. There was discussion at a previous meeting regarding burrowing owls. There are plenty in the area. I was just talking with a resident, Nancy, at this meeting, and she said there's one next door at the high school. So we're aware of that. We are fortunate to be able to incorporate into this plan the retention areas that are already in place for the off-site retention, and that might be an area where they're nimble and they might be able to be drawn towards that. But definitely it's something that we said we would look into during the construction phase and comply with those requirements. You see the density there. Parking exceeds standards. 40% of the units have attached garages, which reduces the amount of canopies. This is more of the next level for this kind of development, sort of like the Windows 2021 kind of version of this product. The roofs are not flat for the homes. They're hip roofs. They're gable end roofs. They have nice architectural detailing. Overall, it creates a nice, cohesive, unified feel for this development. It takes all of the elements, circulation, walls, landscaping, and really makes it into a nice coordinated project that will be nice and safe for families. Here we point out some of the amenities. You've already had a chance to look at some of that. Architecture, those are representative from this or other projects. We'll have to, you have a copy in your packet. Here's another representative imagery of some of the interior designs of the open feel. Windows are more like single family, not like apartments. So it creates multiple angles for natural lighting to enter the unit, 9-foot ceilings, nicer finishes on the appliances. Here's a product that doesn't have the garages, so the one we're proposing here is a little bit upgraded from even this site plan, but you can see through this rendering the kind of feel you get at the entrance and along the streets. This is one of the earlier versions as well on some of the amenities that are proposed. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for letting me take a little bit of your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Member Dugan.
I noticed the parking, you don't have any covered parking. You don't plan to put covered parking in for the cars?
Yes, say that again? You're asking about covered parking?
The pictures don't show any covered parking for the park cars.
Sure. There are different kinds of parking. There will be 40% of the units will have attached garages. In front of those garages will be 18 feet for guest parking, but to make up for any differences, to meet the requirement for one, whatever the requirement is, I believe at least one per unit, there will be some canopies and there will be some detached garages as well. So there are different kinds of parking. It's a nice coordinated situation where there are different options for different needs for the different residents to be in the community.
Okay.
Any other questions? No? All right. Well, thank you for being here this evening.
Okay.
At this time, then, I will open it up to the public. Would anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item?
Hello, my name is Nancy Wood. Address is 513 East Buckle Road, Casa Grande, Arizona. And wanted to say that I really like what I see with the project use here and the design plan. It's a kind of optional use from the single-family plots that I see Casa Grande needs, the options. I think I support the plan. I basically came up because of the G Diamond Ranch area with the single-family homes in this lot here, is that I know that there are burrowing owls in that area, and that any of the developers in that area should check before they do groundwork. And I know some are going to really look at doing that, and I appreciate that. Going forward, there are still land that's going to be developed in addition to this that would need to be checked for that. So just to make the planning and zoning aware of that. And I support the project. Looks like it's going to be a nice addition to Casa Grande. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public like to speak to this agenda item? Seeing nobody, I will close the public portion. Real quick, just for personal knowledge, who's responsible for the extension of Colorado?
So a map of dedication would be required, Chairman Miller, by this applicant for the portion of Colorado abutting their site. And it's classified as a major collector, so it would be 40 feet wide, and it would have to be improved along that stretch. They have a public improvement permit plan already in for that. Fortunately, because the Plat on the other side of Colorado has also recently been approved, there are soon to be improvements on the western portion of the Colorado Street center line, and this portion will be on the east half, tapering between an 80-foot wide and a 40-foot wide stretch in the sections where there is abutting development.
So I'm just trying to figure out the gap, because there's a lot that's designated for religious that's between the school and the entrance. Who's going to pave that section?
So until the church site develops, there will be a portion of Colorado Street in the
Where
amount
you
of-
have to use your feet.
Right.
Because there's no road.
Exactly. You're going to have to use your feet because
Okay.
there's not going to be a street. There's going to be an area 40 feet wide that will not be improved until the church site develops. But there, on the west side of the center line, will be an area 40 feet wide that will be improved. And so traffic's going to have to scallop between one side of the center line and the other until there's development on both sides of the road, which is unfortunately very common throughout the city,
Yeah, I
such as
noticed a
stretches
recent,
of McCartney, et cetera.
The question came up because I noticed a recent development where we have this random
Gap.
section
Yeah.
and I feel like we should figure out to help, or I don't know. I think at one point there used to be a way that you could pave it and then tie it to the property at future development for reimbursement or something along those lines. But I don't know what state statutes allow, but I feel like we should look into the opportunities to clean some of those up. But so there, it'll just be left blank. I appreciate the explanation or answer. All right, that's all I needed clarification on.
So the east half of Colorado will not be built in front of this property frontage. That will just be a right-of-way dedication.
It will be improved.
It'll be built
In
here.
that very tiny little stretch.
Correct.
But right below it, where
Will be nothing.
there'll be nothing.
And then the school has built their.
And the school's built theirs up to what's currently blocked, but then it'll be opened. But it'll just, it'll go like that, and then it'll go over, and then it'll come back, and then turn in.
You have to really make sure you're following that center yellow
Yeah.
line
Or
closely.
use your feet.
Or use your feet.
Any other questions? All right.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve DSA-21-0061, major site plan for Hancock Community, subject for the following conditions from the staff. Does this have to go to city council?
No.
No. Thank you.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Aye.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. Next agenda item, DSA 21-00179.
So I have lots to talk about.
Excited.
Yes. It's a pun, lots.
We're a little slow.
A little late.
Right.
Take all the time you need.
Okay.
I've got all night.
We have lots of time.
This is a zone change request for a large portion of the Villa Arroyo Planned Area Development Zone to R2. A little bit of background and context. It's currently a 240-acre planned area development located about a quarter-mile south of Val Vista Road and to the east of the future Treckle Road, Treckle alignment. 29 acres of the PAD is currently designated for multifamily uses. It's at a density, allowed density of 16 dwelling units per acre, so that could yield about 464 apartment units. And then the balance of the PAD, about 211 acres, is entitled for single-family residential use. The PAD itself and previously issued certificates of assured water supply allow for 723 home sites, which comes to about 3.4 dwelling units per acre. Due to recently passed legislation, these certificates of assured water supply can be potentially increased. The developer has indicated that they can increase their certificates of assured water supply by 239 homes to develop potentially 962 homes on single-family lots. To the right, you see sort of a conceptual layout that was provided in the existing PAD. And what they're proposing, should they be successful with the rezone to R2. As a PAD, it's a challenge to accommodate up to 962 units due to PAD residential design standards. I believe you're probably fairly familiar with what those are, but you wouldn't be able to have any lot less than 6,000 square feet. A lot couldn't be narrower than 55 feet. The side yard setbacks would require one side to be at least 5 feet, the other side to be at least 10 feet. The request for 211 acres to go to R2 would allow some more flexibility, which would respond to the current housing market, and it would allow the development to take advantage of the increase in certificates of assured water supply. However, because the general plan limits development to 4.5 dwelling units per acre, they wouldn't be able to develop a 962 lot neighborhood as proposed. They'd be limited to around 949 lots. A preliminary plat has been submitted alongside this review. That hasn't made its way to Planning Commission yet. It would be scheduled at a future Planning Commission meeting. It would be through that review and further analysis where we would focus on specific issues with regard to Treckle access to Val Vista, drainage, block lengths, etc. This stage is really just looking at the appropriateness of the change in the zoning to R2. The final step of the process, assuming the approval process goes as planned, is ultimately for a final plat to be submitted, and it would be the time of the final plat submittal when there would have to be documentation from ADWR on the final plat that verifies the allowed increase in certificates of assured water supply. One of the advantages of PADs is that it requires housing product, and it also sets forth certain standards such as the minimum open space is required to be 15%. It also speaks to the way that front yards have to be landscaped, talks about streetscape and perimeter fencing. And so in order to carry forward some of the real benefits of a PAD zone, staff is recommending conditions of record be placed on the R2 request so that housing product also be required. However, it could be administratively considered because it wouldn't otherwise be something required of the R2 zone. And also, we are recommending a condition of record that beholdens this development to some of those same subdivision standards found in PADs, such as the minimum open space, front yard landscaping, and a requirement for an HOA or special maintenance district up to the discretion of the city, and that would have to be established prior to the final plat being recorded. As Joe mentioned on one of his presentations, recently adopted state law also talks about zone changes have to take into consideration affordability. And just like with his presentation, staff believes that in general, this zone change to R2 will help with affordability because it ultimately results in more homes allowed within that same area that the PAD is currently approved for. Also, I want to point out that in the R2 zone, although it does allow single-family development, it also allows multifamily development. It allows attached and detached structures. So as a condition of record, multifamily development and multiple single-family structures on individual lots will be prohibited. However, there are certain conditional use permits that are allowed in the R2 that would require separate planning commission consideration, such as churches, schools, and group homes. That would be potentially some uses that could ultimately be proposed, but it would be through a separate application process. In considering zone changes, these are the three criteria that have to be evaluated, and they all speak to, more or less, conformance with the general plan. So this area sits within the neighborhood's land use designation of the 2030 general plan. And the neighborhood's designation allows single-family developments on homes with individual lots having a maximum gross density of 4.5 dwelling units per acre. The way the site is currently developed, it sits at about 3.1 dwelling units. Ultimately, they would like to seek a 4.5 dwelling unit development, but that would be subject to the ultimate layout on the preliminary plat. The action also has to be consistent with the city's general plan, so R2 is included as an appropriate zone district within the neighborhood's general plan land use category. And one of the goals of the general plan states that the city should encourage a variety in neighborhood design and development patterns and to provide a variety of housing choice for all income levels, generations, and household demographics. So staff feels that by allowing this neighborhood to develop with an increase in lots will provide more options of housing choice. And also action step N3.3 talks about increasing the amount of medium density housing is encouraged. Now, a single family residential community at 4.5 dwelling units per acre isn't really medium density. It's considered low density per our general plan. However, this would be an increase in density. And so the general plan as currently worded would seem to support that increase in the density there. And one of the applicable elements found in the general plan is the city should look at increasing the range of housing choices and products available to all members of the Casa Grande community. Regarding the public notification process, the notification efforts met that which is required by code. There was a sign posted on Val Vista, not literally on their property because their property is a quarter mile off of Val Vista and probably no one would see it. So this was located at the corner of Val Vista and Treckle, but staff did not receive any comments. Should this ultimately find its way to City Council, they would hear this request at the December 6th council meeting. It would be the first reading of the ordinance. And then Planning Commission would hear a pre-plat at an upcoming scheduled meeting. Should those be approved, the next steps would be for the applicant to submit site development permits for grading, a final landscaping plan, public improvement permits for Treckle Road and other roads within the neighborhood. And then the council would consider a final plat, at which time they would have the assured water supply information. And then we would also require financial assurance to secure the proposed improvements. And then lastly, housing product would be required, but it could be considered administratively. So staff recommends that Planning Commission forward to council a recommendation to approve this zone change from Via Arroyo P80 to R2, subject to the conditions discussed in this presentation and within the staff report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff? Member Dugan.
Treckle Road, there's no road there. So how the hell are they gonna get in the road?
Right.
There's no road there at all. There's no, I don't think you even got the damn right of way. Why would
Right.
you
We
wanna
talked about
build
last
something that's landlocked?
We talked to you last time, it's feet.
You know, what are you gonna do? Are they gonna put a 5-lane road in then, or are
So-
they gonna pay for it, not the city pay for it?
So Treckle is designated to be a minor arterial road, so ultimately it'd be 110 feet wide. Through the platting process, they'd be responsible for dedicating 55 feet immediately abutting their development. But to your point, there's a gap between their development and Val Vista.
Yep.
So one of the review considerations of the pre-plat is they either need to also dedicate that roadway by negotiating with the intervening property owner or working out some sort of roadway easement. But we wouldn't be able to take that plat forward until that was worked
So
out.
why should we approve this if they don't even have the right of way to get in there?
Make it a condition.
So, although right-of-way ultimately will be needed to serve the site, really what's being considered is the zoning appropriate, very similar to how there is already zoning approved for a community here, which would have had the same concerns at the time that the original PAD was created.
Basically, we're not discussing the development of it, just the zoning of it. So it doesn't matter whether there's a road to it or not, because that doesn't affect the zoning of it.
Chairman, we're gonna hear from the applicant. I'm sure they can speak to whether there's legal access, right?
So, you know, the situation here is that this zone change does not authorize any development. Chairman's exactly right.
And so you'd have to get all the way to the final plat before you're actually authorizing development and building permits. The next step will be for a preliminary plat, which you will see. I'm going to tell you that there is no access to this property from Val Vista. The applicant will have to negotiate with the intervening property owner to obtain a roadway easement or right-of-way, more likely right-of-way dedication to the city, and they will have to build an off-site improvement to Truckle Road to Val Vista. You'll see all those details at the preliminary plat stage, which will be the next step in this process if the zone change is approved.
Would they have to also get the right of way to go take it, Treckle Road all the way to McCartney?
You know, they're going to do a traffic impact analysis to show whether or not one one access to Val Vista will be adequate to handle their traffic or not? If it's not, then possibly. My gut feeling is that one access to the north will probably be adequate, but their traffic impact analysis will tell us the answer to that question.
Sure. I mean, I don't wanna.
Yeah, I'm done.
Any other questions for staff? No? Okay. I'll let the applicant come forward if they, and/or representative, by all means, come forward. Thank you for being here and being patient this evening.
Good evening. My name is Dale Willis with Willis Property Company. Address is 3850 East Baseline Road in Mesa. James has explained and detailed what we'd like to do with the property and getting it rezoned. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions? No? No questions?
No.
Oh, I have.
You plan to get it right away before you.
Well, yeah, the property
You
to
gotta
the
fly
north
in.
and south of us.
They're gonna put an airstrip in?
Yeah.
Drop zone?
Oh, I'm sorry.
We've owned the property since 2005. We rezoned it in 2007. It hasn't really changed at all with access going in and out. And the Valago people, Community Southwest, owns the property to the south of us and north of us. And there'll be some ongoing discussions with them. We all realize that Treckle will be put in either now or in the future someday. It'll never stay the way it is, especially with the growth that's taking place in Casa Grande. So unfortunately, we're the first ones on the block, and we have a cause in place, and that's been there since 2007. And I just want to take the property forward and get it sold. That's what I want to do. And we'll get access to it, Dennis, so.
Worry about that later.
I guarantee you that. Baby steps. So, I'll guarantee you, so.
Any other questions?
Well, I feel sorry for the guy that's gonna buy it. The guy don't have a road.
We'll get it.
You know.
I'm gonna throw a slight, I don't know, opinion at you and get your response on one of the conditions that was potentially listed in this zone change, or passed them, was 15 minimum open space 15% based on current subdivision standards. Is your feeling on increasing that? We increase density, but increase open space.
I think within the 15%, we're staying within what the PADs and that's in place right now. I don't think I'm prepared tonight to discuss about increasing that. I think with the plan that will be brought to you in the next month or two on our pre-plat, we can maybe address it more then. But we have taken time with multiple meetings with staff, with my consultants who are here from the EPS group in Mesa. I would like to stick with 15%.
Fair. I appreciate your honesty in that.
So. Hopefully I answered it clearly.
You did. You did. You were very clear on what you would like. I appreciate that. Thank you. Any other questions?
I just have one comment, Mr. Chair. And we're not prepared to discuss transportation or traffic, but the circulation plan in the old PAD was, it just seemed like it circulated better to provide access to the community, and this one doesn't so much. So I just wanted to make that note when you guys are going through the platting process and that development, that you consider collector streets and the infrastructure.
So at the future meeting, when we go over
At
the
the future
preliminary
meeting, this
plats,
one little collector you guys have on
it's
the
gonna be
north end.
nice.
Yes, it's
Can't
gonna-
wait to find
it's gonna
out
look
more.
just like that one.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? All right. So I'm going to open it up to the public. Anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item? I'm just going to have you sit up front for us. And get you a seat right up here.
Again, it's Nancy Wood, 513 East Beckel Road, Casa Grande, Arizona. And again, my only thing that I have with what is going on is the single-family home lots being reduced and increasing the density. Where we have limited single-family residential lots that are going to be available within the city, I think we should keep our standards and keep that up. I don't like the increase in density and the lack of open spaces and consideration for the rezoning for that. So I'm against making the changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Okay, I will close the public portion. Commission, questions, comments?
I do share her concerns. I thought it was interesting that we talked about in presentation just a little bit ago about a variety of housing. And I feel like we're approving very similar housing product, one right after the other, and it does concern me. Again, they're following our rules. It's our rules that may be the issue, not necessarily what the developers are trying to do.
I'm gonna go with I've been a big proponent of, I understand higher density, but I've always been a big proponent of additional open space. So take it away from the setback, move it to a neighborhood park. Take it away from larger backyards and move them to common areas. And I think that if we're gonna add a restriction, I like the idea of saying, hey, we can increase, but let's increase open space. So if you're gonna go in a residential property is 15%, which is why I asked the question. But if you're gonna increase the density, then let's at least proportionally increase the open space, which I think takes it at least to 20%. But if not, I would encourage even additional, because I think it creates a more open feel within a higher density product. That's a personal opinion, and I think it's something that staff should consider as we start to see probably more and more of these ways that we might be able to accommodate both sides of an open feel in our community, but also the higher density and development that developers and landowners need in order to get land sold, get it developed, and then hopefully build a road to it.
You know, you got a good point there. I like that idea. The problem is we just approved one with the same rules. If we didn't approve this one, what makes this one different from the last one?
So on that preliminary plat, though, that one was, it showed additional.
Did it show additional deal?
It was more open space than this one's presenting. I don't remember exactly what it was. What's that? It's 31%? Yeah, see?
There we go.
There's my number. Because I like that idea of saying, hey, the other one did not look as just sardine packed. And so by adding additional open space, I think it gives us an opportunity to create developments that accommodate higher density, but then also don't just line hundreds of homes next to each other.
Chairman, so do we have the opportunity to amend those conditions to change the open space?
We can.
Well, say we do it.
And so.
Legal really loves it when I change conditions in the middle of a meeting, but, and I apologize, staff, for not discussing sooner before the meeting, but.
And this goes before the city council from here.
Yes, it does.
You want to make?
Applicant, would you like to discuss my discussion here? So by all means, come up and,
With the prior case, well, we're at 16%. My consultants have mentioned to me tonight. In the prior case, as you recall, the southern portion of that's in the floodplain. That's why their open space is much higher than what ours is. We don't
Should've
really
bought
have
the
any
floodplain.
floodplain. Well, now, the next case that's being presented, I own that too, and that has floodplain, so it's the same floodplain that goes through there. So at this point, I don't think we're really comparing apples to apples just because of the floodplain component of the prior case. Correct?
Good point.
So
in a floodplain, they'd have the ability to develop that land by raising it and mitigating the water in other ways, though.
no, he's saying that it needs to make its way through the property, and they're not showing it through the property today with this platting that they're showing.
What are you talking about?
That they were carrying stormwater through the property on the other site, I think.
No, the other site, the southern portion of it was on the north branch of the Santa Cruz, which was in a floodplain,
Right.
which he's saying couldn't be developed. However, it could be developed technically as long as they raised the lots. I mean, ultimately, like, I understand your point, but ultimately, they still could build houses there. There's just, it's gonna be a whole lot more expensive and not cost effective and not.
In the prior case, in the Santa Cruz Village, they were actually going to reduce the amount of floodplain through a LOMAR process. They were gonna leave the floodway, which was open space, but they were going to take some of their floodplain out of the development. You know, you're gonna see a number of these PAD to R2 zone changes this evening. We got at least 2 more to go, or maybe 3 more to go. And I think they all have a variety of open space. I'm gonna ask Jacqueline a quick question on McCartney Ranch, which has no floodplain. What's the open space on McCartney Ranch?
I just checked that, it's at 20.9%.
Okay. So that's probably the lowest one we have is 20.9 other than this one, just so you know. There's a variety, the ones with floodplain have more, but Elaine Farms has floodplain, they have a high percentage of open space. McCartney Ranch has no floodplain, and it's 21%. The last comment I'll make is this, is that if the condition stays as written and proposed by staff, when the preliminary plat comes in, and if it's at 16%, we won't have any basis for saying it has to go to 20 or whatever number beyond 15.
Yeah, that's why as more of these continue to come forward, I feel like we need to decide if that's if we're gonna put a number on it, or if we're just gonna let it happen with whatever's presented. I mean, ultimately, we threw 15 on it because that's what the residential standard is, but the R2 doesn't even require the 15. And so they could just fill them all in with houses as it's currently written. And so the question just becomes, is the 15 enough? And again, I support higher density. I think it's a needed product. I think it's a great way for developers. I don't know if that's enough space for me.
All right,
Either way.
we'll see if I can handle this. Chairman, I'll make a motion to
All right.
forward to City Council item DSA 21-00194 for a zone change for the Bella Vista PAD to R2, with the conditions of the staff report, with an amendment to the open space requirement from 15% to 20%.
I'll second that motion.
Did she have the right case? Just making sure.
Yeah, no,
I hope
that's
so.
the wrong
DSA
DSA number.
21-00179.
Okay.
Read the wrong
I think she
number.
said
Oh, I
194.
did read the
so
wrong
Just
number.
wanted to be clear.
Yes.
Okay.
You did very well for reading the wrong one. I'm not gonna lie.
That might have been my fault,
So,
I'll take.
in clarification,
Okay.
Oh, I was.
All right.
There may have been a typo. I'm not
Never
sure,
mind,
but
it
I just
wasn't.
wanted to make
No,
sure.
you're
never
absolutely
mind,
right.
it was your fault. Remember, Garza.
Okay.
So just for clarification, DSA 21-00179,
Yes, correct.
and the second agrees. Alright. Any discussion? Good catch, by the way, on that. All right, now would you call the roll?
Do we get a second? Do we get a second?
I have a second.
Oh, okay.
I got 2 seconds, actually. And I
Okay.
got confirmation that they agreed that it was a corrected. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
on it.
Member Hubbard,
Yes, I think.
Member
Yes.
Garza,
Aye.
Member Benedict.
Yes.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
I really wanted 30. You went to 20, didn't you?
That's a compromise.
All right, yes. All right. Where are we at here? Too many
Now
notes
we're
on my.
on 194.
20%, that's 5%.
194, yeah. All right, number 7 on the agenda, DSA 21-00194. God, we had to go after you on the very first one. You gotta come back up here.
So this is a zone change request from PAD to R2. A little bit of background regarding the Bella Vista PAD is it's about 78.5 acres located at the northwest corner of Quartzen and Peart Road, between Peart Road and the future extension of Colorado Street. Currently, the PAD is approved for a 54-acre area as the single-family residential use. The most recently approved PAD doesn't provide a specific lot count within that area. However, from previous preliminary plats and previous versions of the PAD, there were 252 certificates of assured water supply issued for Bella Vista at a density of about 4 dwelling units per acre. Also within this PAD is a 20-acre area designated for multifamily residential, just to the south. And then in the corner, right at the corner of Peart and Quartzen, is a 4.5-acre area designated for commercial use. That's where Dollar General is currently constructing on a portion of that site. Now, the former Bella Vista PAD that was approved probably in 06 or 07 was for an area that consumed more single family than what the current existing PAD allows for. Only a 4.5-acre area for commercial was carved out. The most recently approved PAD that was approved in 2018 created that 20-acre multifamily site. So, as I mentioned, this area does have certificates of assured water supply for 252 homes. But the existing certificates were originally intended to apply to a larger area within Bella Vista prior to the 20 acres being designated for multifamily, which was a use introduced in 2018. So the purpose of this request to R2 is a little bit different than the past presentations you've seen this evening. It's not necessarily to take advantage of an increase in certificates of assured water supply, in that it's more to do with the fact that the existing PAD zone that's designated for the single family area, about a 54-acre area, is limiting the number of single family lots if it were to remain PAD zoned. The R2 zone would allow development of an increased number of lots. As you know, as a PAD, it's subject to very specific development standards. Lots can't fall under 6,000 square feet. etc. R2 provides some more flexibility. Lots can be as small as 5,000 square feet and as narrow as 45 feet, allows for reduced side setbacks. However, as with all these presentations, the maximum allowed density would be 4.5 dwelling units per acre. So doing the math, that would create about 243 home sites. So it's potentially less than how many CAUs are already approved for that area. But the proposal is to amend the 54 acres to R2. And staff does support this request, but subject to certain conditions of record. And that would be that, like with the previous requests, the applicant would be required to submit for housing product, and then subdivision standards found within the PAD would still apply, such as the minimum open space of 15%, front yard landscaping would be required, the same type of treatment to the perimeter of the area like you would see within a PAD. It would also be required to have either an HOA or a special maintenance district. And as discussed with the other presentations, multifamily development or multiple single structures on individual lots would be prohibited because the intent is to develop this area for single family. So regarding zone changes, certain criteria have to be met as discussed on the previous presentations. A lot of the criteria is centered around compliance with the general plan. This area sits within the neighborhood's general plan land use, which does allow a maximum density of 4.5 dwelling units per acre. Really what the increase would result in if this zone change was approved is a density increase from what's currently at 4 dwelling units per acre to 4.5 dwelling units per acre. R2 is listed as an appropriate zone district within the neighborhood's land use category. And the action step that would be associated with this request is to encourage a variety of neighborhood design and development patterns by adding housing choices for all income levels, generations, and household demographics. An applicable element is the same as the other presentations with regarding that this would increase the range of housing choices and products. Regarding the public notification efforts, it met, if not exceeded, those which is required by code. There weren't any comments provided. I also do want to point out a couple of things before I conclude my presentation, which is, this site is also a little bit unique for a couple of other reasons. We're talking about a 54-acre area. It's not the size that we've seen with the other PAD requests. So it sort of is in and of itself a nice niche area. Also, when looking at potential development surrounding the area, on the other side of future Colorado Street is the Muirlands PAD, which does not have certificates of assured water supply, so it's not likely to develop as a single-family residential neighborhood. And on the other side of Peart Road is the Mission Por Del Rio PAD, which also doesn't have certificates of assured water supply. Now, that doesn't mean development's not allowed. It just means that it can't be split into 6 or more lots. So what's likely on either side of this PAD is a type of development that would render this R2 development very compatible with what you'd see developing next to it. I should also point to the north is the Arroyo Linda PAD, which also does not have certificates of assured water supply. So it's kind of a lone wolf there at the corner of Peart and Courtson. So the next steps for this proposal is it is scheduled for City Council on the December 6th agenda. It would be the first reading of the ordinance. And then the applicant would submit a pre-plat, and it would be scheduled for an upcoming Planning Commission meeting for your consideration. Assuming that the pre-plat gets approved, the next steps after that would be for the applicant to provide for the site development plan, final landscape plan, public improvement permits, which would include half-street dedication and improvement to Colorado Street, half-street dedication and improvement to Peart Road. And should council consider the final plat, it would be at that time, there would be financial assurance required. If there is an opportunity for them to increase certificates of assured water supply, they would put that documentation on the final plat. And then, as I mentioned previously, housing products would be required, but it would be considered administratively. Staff does recommend that Planning Commission forward to City Council a recommendation to approve this zone change, subject to the conditions presented here this evening and within your staff report. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff?
Chairman, I have a question. James, the out parcels shown on PERT, what are those?
Those are well sites.
Okay.
I had to think about what you were asking, but yeah,
They're
they
just-
are well sites.
Okay,
correct.
so they're owned by the water company, or?
I believe so. They may, and the applicant can confirm that, because I'm not sure if they're wells that contribute to the overall water delivery system of the city, or if they were there for former farming or current farming operations, but they're not part of this PAD.
Understood. Thank
Or
you.
zone change, I should say.
Any other questions?
James, can you go back to the chairman's open space?
More?
So you're proposing minimum open space at 15%?
Correct.
They were being consistent. So we need to be, if,
Yep.
in
Thank you. I
theory,
just
we
wanted to
should be
clarify that.
consistent
Yes.
in our
Yep.
steps forward.
Now, I should also point out that, to answer your question a little bit more in depth, the currently approved PAD, as you see on the right graphic, does account for some open space towards the north end, because that A is within a flood area, and B, it is right next to an existing wash and planned regional trail. So I would expect that when they do submit for a pre-plat, they're going to have to account for that either through a Clomar-Lomar process, which would surely probably make the area more buildable, but it wouldn't be 100% more buildable. There would still be reservation towards the northern area to account for that adjacent wash.
Right, but that would be included similar to the previous project within
Right.
the, if we said 20%, roughly 10% is already there. They just have to spread 10% out throughout the rest of the PAD. Ultimately. Okay. And I'm just throwing some numbers out there. I don't know if that math is entirely accurate, so don't hold me to the math, okay? Any other questions for staff? No? No? All right. So applicant, and yeah, would you like to come forward, talk to us about this one? Wow, come on. You worried I might take 30 now? Is it?
No.
I'm just teasing. I'm teasing you. Come on now.
Now, remember, look at the map right here, and this is going to be a very expensive parcel to develop. You have to develop all of Peart Road, Colorado Street. Normally, Colorado would be at the midsection line, not at the quarter-mile mark. So this is going to be a very expensive parcel. Plus, you throw in into the calculations of floodplain that we're going through and analyzing right now. So I'm not sure where we're going to be at the open space figure, but that will be forthcoming when we present the pre-plats to you for approval, for a review as well as approval. So I'm here to answer any questions that you may have. The out parcels, those wells are owned by the Clapp family. and they're still using those for agricultural purposes, to farm our piece as well as the 80 acres next door, as well as the 250 or 280 acres at Treckle and Courtson, northwest corner. So that's what's going on with the wells.
There you go. Any questions?
Other questions?
The applicant.
Okay. Thank you.
Because I've already said this.
I know. All right, so at this time, I'd like to open it up to the public. Anybody from the public like to speak to this agenda item?
Nancy Wood, 513 East Beckel Road, Casa Grande, Arizona. Again, I'm just voicing my concerns over all the changes in the single-family zoning to smaller density lots and increasing the traffic and reducing, as you say, the open spaces. I do hope that any of the properties along the Santa Cruz River really can take into consideration the development along the flood zone there. And it's really an added asset to the community to be developed well, so that there's decent access and use for those areas that are floodplain. But again, I don't really appreciate the increase in density in these single-family lots. I think we need to keep some of the larger lots that we still have available, because there's going to be a lot of land that's not going to be able to be used as single-family. And it's something that you can't bring back. So I know there's this push for different uses, but this is a different use. It is a single-family lot that has a decent size, and there's going to be plenty of other places where they're going to be putting possibly apartment complexes or multi-use and other things like that. And so I think our density can be increased in those places rather than the single-family lots that we already have. And again, any of the development along these areas should take into consideration any of the wildlife and the burrowing owls. So, that's all I have to say. I don't approve the density change. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public? Seeing nobody, I will close the public portion. Bring it back to the commission. You did the first one, so now you have to do them all.
I'm going to say the same thing I just said.
That's right. Well, yeah.
Because I said the other one wrong.
That's right, because you said it wrong last time, so now I get to do it.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we forward to City Council item number DSA 21-00194, a zone change for the Bella Vista PAD to R2, with the conditions listed in the staff report, with one amendment of the open space requirement from 15 to 20%.
Second.
And just for clarification, you would like to forward a recommendation to approve?
To approve. I would like to forward a recommendation to approve.
Perfect.
Agreed.
Okay. Seems like I got legal already. They were coming at me. Motion and second, any discussion? Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Benedict.
Yes.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. Oh, now I gotta go to the next page. We're getting there, slowly but surely. Yeah, that's all right. Next agenda item, DSA 21-00184. Zone change.
All right. Chairman Miller, members of the commission, next item on the agenda is a request by CVL for a zone change from Elaine Farms PAD to R2 on approximately 224 acres. The current PAD for this site was allocated for 531 lots at a density of 2.33 dwelling units per acre. The proposed R2 would increase to 711 lots with a density of 3.17 dwelling units per acre. I did want to point out that the multifamily and commercial portion of the PAD located at the northwest corner of Corson and Treckle will remain as a PAD. There we go. Again, as previously mentioned, here are the requirements for the existing PAD. The proposed R2 has a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet with a minimum side setbacks of 5 feet. The proposed preliminary plat that is in review currently has a range of lots from 5,400 square feet to 6,000 square feet. And while this is a request in number of lots, staff wants to ensure that the resulting development has the same design elements and quality of a traditional PAD. And for that reason, staff does recommend conditions of approval relating to design requirements. And in addition, again, with the new law requirement for staff to consider impacts on affordable housing, staff did consider this. And while this is a greater requirement than the R2, there is a trade-off with the increase in lots. And with that, staff feels that this likely will make this more affordable. Additionally, like the original or the first zone case we heard, this also is within a floodplain area and will require a LOMAR to be approved by FEMA prior to the final plat. With that, I did want to point out the open space and trails along this area. It is designated for 36% of open space and will have a trail that will go along the Santa Cruz, connecting the trail that is part of the master plan. It does also have the spur trail running north and south, connecting it to the linear trail. Here's again the zone change criteria staff reviews related to the general plan. Again, the R2 is an appropriate zoning district within the neighborhoods. The maximum density is 4.5 dwelling units per acre. This request is at 3.17 dwelling units per acre. And again, all this is analyzed in more detail in the staff report. Regarding notification, it met all the requirements. Signs were posted at the site along Pinal, Corson, and Treckle, and no comments were received. Regarding next steps, should Planning Commission recommend approval, this will be heard at the December 6th council meeting. Planning Commission will hear the pre-plat at an upcoming scheduled meeting. And prior to final plat, the site development improvements and finalization of the LOMAR will be needed before the final plat is considered to City Council. And again, housing product submittal will be considered administratively. With that, staff recommends Planning Commission forward to City Council a recommendation of approval for DSA 21-00184, a zone change from Elaine Farms PAD to R2 with the following conditions of record. Happy to answer any questions Commission may have.
Questions for staff?
Yeah, this one here, R2 says 15%, but with this green area with the flood area, it looks like it's a lot more than 15%. So what's it coming out to as? You have any idea?
Yes. Commissioner Dugan, it's at 36%.
Excuse me?
36%.
Oh, 36%. But we don't need to amend this one.
No, we still do. You still need to amend it so that way all the conditions are stated the same. You gotta make it the same.
Well, it's already.
It doesn't matter, though. You still have to, the condition is, you're setting the precedent moving forward for every R2 rezone that comes forward. So we have to list them all as a minimum of 20%. Even though it's at 36. Say they go to the floodplain, they get it mitigated, all of a sudden it changes, and they can slam it in there, then they could build it to 15%, so we have to
Wouldn't that
list.
come back to us automatically if they change that?
Sure, but we've already approved it then we would have already approved it under the 15. Director, go for it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Commissioner Dugan, the thing to keep in mind is this preliminary plat that's on the screen with the 36% open space, that's not up before you for approval yet, right? It's in the works, we're reviewing it, but it could change before it gets back to you, right? So the chairman's exactly right. If you want to make sure that there's at least 20%, and there probably will be more at the end, but if you want to make sure there's at least 20%, you should change that condition.
Because they could get rid of all the green space in between every home, along every street, and just use the wash, in theory, right? So you have to just be consistent in the condition.
You're right.
Questions for staff? Any other questions? No? All right. Applicant and/or representative like to come forward. Thanks for being here and being extremely patient. You're not quite the last agenda item, but you were darn close, so.
Absolutely. Hello, I'm Julie Vermillion with the applicant Van Loo Consultants, located at 4550 North 12th Street in Phoenix. Thank you so much for hearing our case tonight, and thank you, Jacqueline, for your presentation. I'd just like to emphasize that the original PAD development plan was approved over 15 years ago. So there's a distinct need to update and improve upon the plan to meet the current market demands. As we've discussed earlier this evening, the larger lots currently in place tend to be more costly, and they do tend to have higher maintenance requirements, which can be seen as a burden on home buyers, and they're currently not as desirable in this day. We'd also like to update the plan to meet the current day needs of Casa Grande and the improvements surrounding the property. We're planning to do half-street improvements to the east, south, and west of the development, including turn lanes at Casa Grande Avenue and Courtson Road, Pinal Avenue and Casa Grande Lakes Boulevard, and Treckle Road and Casa Verde Road. We're also looking into potential traffic signalizations at Casa Grande Avenue and Courtson Road, pending the finalization during the preliminary platting stage and the traffic impact analysis currently in progress. We're providing central collector road system throughout the property, along with a trail system, and you can see the connectivity meandering through open space corridors. We tried to keep those in place as close to the original PAD as possible, along with multitude of pocket parks and a centralized neighborhood park. We're also providing that regional trail along the Santa Cruz Wash, the spur trail per county or city recommendation. I would also like to address some items that were a common theme tonight. If there are any native species on the site, we'll check for that, and we will be required to do an environmental study for that and remove any native species that may be on the property prior to construction. Additionally, the site is within the Arizona Water Service area, and they've confirmed that they have the availability to serve our site with the infrastructure improvements to be finalized during the preliminary plat process. And of course, we'll provide a certificate of assured water supply at the time of final plat approval. We believe that the updated plan is the best possible use for the site and a great opportunity to facilitate development of the property into a new and attractive residential community that'll have a positive impact on the surrounding area. Thank you for your time, and I'm available to answer any questions.
All right. Well then, preemptively answering a bunch of questions. Right. It's gonna make it harder for us to ask questions. What? Any questions for the applicant?
I do have a question. She may as well shed light. So the trail, very nice through that wash, but we run it into the
Trailer park.
the trailer park.
Or mobile home facility. What, there's
Yeah.
a lot of ways you could state that.
Manufactured home.
It's not actually manufactured though. I think that's on trailers, isn't it? Or is that
Whatever.
That corner.
I'm not going to argue what you call it, buddy. You know what I'm talking about
Yeah.
here. So, I mean, let's have a nice trail. I love it. Thank you so much.
You won't be able to get to it.
Yeah. How do we?
Is the chairman or
What?
Jacqueline, is the trailer park site, is it a temporary use permit? Is it a special use permit? Or is it zoned that way?
Chairman Garza, we actually noticed that this.
Chairman.
Oh, sorry.
Here's the
Commissioner Garza. We actually noticed this when we were going through our presentations this morning. So this is just a conceptual trail plan. The preliminary plat will look at this in more detail and will likely require it to meet up along the Santa
You can
Cruz.
just tell them we're not here to discuss that because
Yeah.
it's not the actual
I'm sorry.
plat. We're just here to
Yeah.
discuss the changing of the zoning.
It will
Understood.
link
Sorry.
up with our
Something.
trail area.
We got in the weeds. Okay.
It's an exhibit.
Next time they come forward, you guys
Sorry.
get the weeds, okay?
Okay.
Any other questions? No? All right. Maybe they're going to build a bridge over it.
I want to see that plan.
Thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you very much.
Good luck trying to get the brush truck.
You jumping up. You want to come forward? I'm going to open the public portion. All right.
It's Nancy Wood, 513 East Beckle Road, Casa Grande, Arizona. And again, I just have a consistent idea about not changing the single-family lot sizes down and giving the higher density. So I just want to be consistent in not agreeing with that, and I hope that this doesn't really set a precedence that this happens with every location that has this kind of designation, that I think it would be not in the best interest, I think, of the city. But also, I would state that if they're going to be adding more lots in that area, the corner at Casa Grande Avenue and Courtson, they mentioned that they would be possibly looking at a streetlight intersection. And that would be something that I would really think that they would need to consider, considering the traffic at that. And it's something that would impact me directly, because that's a corner that I have to go through all the time, and it's already, when there's certain times of the day, there's heavy traffic back and forth between Pinal and Treckle, and it's a city plan to increase the width of that property as far as the streets on that, so it will increase the traffic by quite a bit. This is one of my concerns. So, and I appreciate them mentioning that they will look for the wildlife as they look for planning and the development. And I hope that the flood zone is really looked at and used well with the walkways that are going to be planned along the Santa Cruz. So, thank you.
Thank you. Right.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I know it's been a long night. Aaron Dorman with the newspaper. Just so that we don't have to rehash this with everybody again, can you guys just clarify real quick, and it doesn't look like it's an issue with this one, sort of what is the amendment that you guys have been including, is sort of what is the power, like, is that a recommendation that the city doesn't have, that the city can weigh in their determination when it makes it to the council, or what is how Yeah.
Gotcha. So the recommendation, for these cases, we've been forwarding to council for their approval. The condition that we've put on there or amended was, it currently states 15% for open spaces. We've amended that to be 20%. Council has the ability to take it to 15, throw it out.
Okay.
Make it 50. They get to choose ultimately, but we're forwarding a recommendation of 20% for their approval for these types of projects.
Okay.
Increased in, or to change to R2 zoning.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. Anybody else from the public? No? All right. We'll close the public portion. Bring it back to the commission. Just remember, if you're going to make a motion, to be consistent.
Come on.
You started it. You got to finish it now.
My name.
I'm behind you all the way, girl.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we forward to City Council a recommendation of approval for item DSA 2100184, a zone change for the Elaine Farms PAD to R2 zoning with the conditions listed in the staff report, but amending the open space requirement from 15 to 20%.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Yes.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right, and moving on to the last agenda item. Or well, there's two items within the last item. Thank you guys for being here this evening. Huh?
You're gonna be real shocked with this request.
Am I? Can't wait. I shouldn't be shocked if I read my staff report. All right, DSA 21-00193, zone change, and DSA-21-00204, major amendment.
Great. Chairman Miller, members of the commission. Next item on the agenda is a zone change request from McCartney Ranch to PAD to R2 on approximately 282 acres, and a PAD amendment to change the current 36 acres designated as commercial in the southeast corner of McCartney and Pinal to 19 acres to include both commercial and multifamily. So the current PAD is allowed for 708 lots at a density of 3.7 dwelling units per acre. Not included in the original preliminary plat was a unique product located at the corner of Pinal that was 23.5 acres and had a density of 4.8 dwelling units per acre. And if this was developed at its max, it would be at 188 lots. So potentially apartments, some sort of single family, build for rent. The proposed R2 is 992 lots at a density of 3.52 dwelling units per acre. As this project was coming online, we have worked with the developer to keep parcels 6 and 8 as larger lots, as these are adjacent to Coyote Ranch and Cornerstone. We did have a neighborhood meeting over the summer that I will talk to in a little more detail later on. It was held at McCartney Ranch School, and about 10 members of the community attended, mostly from Coyote Ranch and the existing Mission Ranch, McCartney Ranch subdivision. Their main concerns were really the height of these houses on the lot, southern portion. They were happy that we did keep these as larger lots. So with that, you'll see in our conditions of record that we are recommending that lots, the southern lots, have a height restriction to 25 feet or 1 story, and that is consistent with what is in the Coyote Ranch PAD. And also with that, we are recommending that these side yard setbacks for parcels 6 and 8 are 5 and 10. Again, here are the existing PAD standards and what we are proposing. Again, with the conditions of record regarding the housing requirements, again, as parcels 6 and 8 would be at side yard setbacks at 5 and 10, and the southernmost lots would be 1 story at 25 feet. Regarding open space, in the original PAD, it did stipulate that the developer should work with Kinder Morgan on, as this project came, to develop a trail along the southern portion. As this came back online and discussions were held with El Paso and Kinder Morgan, they declined to have a trail built here. However, the developer is proposing a 10-foot trail within the community that will continue to connect the community trail. And with this, the open space is at 20.9%. Again, here is the zone change criteria staff looks at, mainly in the neighborhoods land use category. R2 is an appropriate zoning district for neighborhoods. Has a maximum gross density of 4.5 dwelling units per acre, and this is at 3.52. And this is in additional details on the staff report. Regarding the PAD amendment, the request is to change the current 36 acres to 19 acres that will include both commercial and multifamily. A major site plan has not been submitted yet, but this will go into more detail at a later application. Again, in review of the PAD criteria, this site is within the community corridor and would allow for a density of 25 dwelling units per acre. And staff finds that the request meets the land use for the surrounding area. Regarding notifications and neighborhood meetings, again, staff did hold a neighborhood meeting at McCartney Ranch over the summer. We did also send out notice of applications and review to property owners at the beginning of October. We did receive, and as far as the public hearing notification efforts were met. Again, regarding comments at the community meeting, it was really regarding the heights of the lots adjacent to Coyote Ranch and Cornerstone. I did receive one email from a Cornerstone resident regarding the density of parcel 6 and 8 and the overall project density, and I explained about the currently proposed or allowed PAD requirements and how the parcel 6 and 8 were in line with the existing zoning. And staff, I did not receive any other comments on the PAD amendment. So again, next steps, first reading of the zone change would be at the December 6th Planning City Council meeting. Planning Commission will hear the preliminary plat at an upcoming meeting. Council will then consider the final plat at that time. The 80 certificates of assured water will be required. Landscaping, site development, public improvements, financial assurance will also be needed prior to final plat recording. Housing product submittal to be considered administratively. And for the PAD amendment, again, this will be heard at the December 6th hearing, City Council, and Planning Commission would hear the major site plan at an upcoming meeting. With that, staff recommends approval of DSA 21-00193, a zone change from McCartney Ranch 2 PAD to R2 with the following conditions of record. And regarding the PAD amendment request, DSA 21-00204, staff recommends the following conditions of record. I did actually include a handout. We did revise to add condition 2, that commercial development shall be in conformance with the B2 zoning, current parking, and landscape standards. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
So, questions for staff? Not a single question.
You know what, this is just nothing to do with the deal, but they got that gas line going through there, and there's a grade school right there, and got that explosion out there by Coolidge and blew up that house and killed 2, 3 people. Like, you know, you would think you'd keep a school further away from a natural gas line or houses from that, because, I mean, well, you worry about it, you know, 20 years down the road, and somebody doesn't fix a leak, the damn thing explodes. You think there should be some requirement that houses and everything should be so far away from those things. It's just my opinion, because look, we lost 3 people in Coolidge because of it. Out in the middle of nowhere, the line blew up. There should be some requirement that houses and buildings should be so far away from a natural gas line, and this damn school's built right on top of it. I just don't, it doesn't make sense. That's my opinion.
Okay, so any questions about the agenda item?
That is the agenda item. We're building right next to the natural gas line.
Because it's already existing zoned, we're just changing the zoning. We could not change the zoning, but they could still build houses next to the gas line, I guess is the current setup, so we're.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but
Yeah.
I don't get to make that decision now because it's already been done. Now I'm just handling the task in front of us. So, questions for staff? Nope. Okay. Applicant and/or representative like to come forward, talk to us? You've waited all night for this
Yes,
moment, and it's finally here, man.
Well, I've heard it's best to be last.
Sure.
So let's find out if that's true.
All right.
Thank you very much, Chairman and members of the commission, for this opportunity to speak to you. And I'd like to thank Jacqueline for her help, and Jacqueline and Paul both for your guidance through this process. My name is Chris Lindahl. I work with Cohen Van Loo Consultants. I'm a land planner, and our company president, Ryan Weed, is here with me. Our company address is 4550 North 12th Street in Phoenix. Most of the high points have already been mentioned. A couple of things that have been discussed on other projects tonight, probably worth mentioning. The first of which is that our open space is at 20.9%. So
you set the standard.
We did that on purpose. We have 18% open space. We have 5 lot sizes, so we have lot diversity. Okay, some of the other projects you've seen don't have that. We have 5 different lot sizes. Our density is 3.52, which that combined with our lot count is 992, is roughly the same as what was approved in the original plat. So we're really not asking for more. What we're asking for is for your approval of a very well-designed project. And I'd very much like to answer any questions you might have.
Sweet. Any questions for the applicant?
No, I think you did really well with the design.
Well, thank you.
You waited all night for this moment, and they didn't even have a question for you.
So it was true.
Golly, that's good. You nailed it.
That's because he did such a good job.
That's it.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. All right, so this time I'll open it up to our public.
Nancy Wood, 513 East Speckle Road, Casa Grande, Arizona. Again, I just want to be consistent in my disagreeing with changing all these PADs to R2 and increasing the density that I think we're losing out on making all these changes with these increased density. And I think the city isn't really set up with the increase in traffic. A lot of what I see from residents here is that a lot of the development is going in, and yet the roads can't handle what's being here. And so you're adding more and more cars without having the infrastructure for the traffic in the area is one of the concerns. So I think this project is probably better than some of the other ones that I've seen, as far as I like the idea that they're using different lot sizes and variances and such. I think that is what people are looking for, is options, so not just being crammed in. And appreciate the open spaces. Again, I think concerns for the gas line, and I hope that they would address that in this particular development, that seeing what happened out in Coolidge was pretty scary. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know, I'm sorry.
You've been sitting there a while.
My name is Brent B. Dillon, 366 East Cornerstone Circle. I am on the board of directors for the Coyote Ranch and Cornerstone HOAs. Our big concern was on the lot sizes of parcel 6 and 8. We do appreciate the size of those lots being a little bit bigger, and I do appreciate Jacqueline getting the maximum height set on those homes that will be adjacent to our area. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public? Closing the public portion. Commission? Remember to be consistent. Select.
Or not.
Member Garza, please be
Mr. Chair,
consistent.
I make a motion that we approve item DSA 21-00193, zone change for McCartney Ranch PAD to R2 zoning, with the conditions of record in the staff report, amending the open space requirement from 15 to 20%.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No? The only thing I'll point out before we vote, because the concerns throughout your consistency throughout this evening is, though we do have increased density in all of these different subdivisions, it also does increase development within our community, which does have its benefits of tax bases, which helps improve roadways, it's the never-ending balance between what we should do or what we should not do. But appreciate you being here. Natalie, would you please call the roll?
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Yes.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we forward to City Council a recommendation of approval for item DSA 21-00204, a major amendment to the McCartney Ranch PAD to amend the size of the commercial area from 36 to approximately 19 acres. With the, do I need to say with the conditions of the staff report? Is this
The following conditions of record.
an open space situation?
There is no open space on this one. This is.
Perfect, okay. Complete.
Just so you know, the number one condition, compliance with those development standards, they do include 20% open space already in the residential design standards.
Perfect.
Second. Motioned and second from the dynamic duo. Any discussion? Natalie, would you call the roll?
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Garza,
Aye.
Member Benedict,
Yes.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Member Dugan,
Yes.
Chairman Miller.
Yes. All right. That concludes the new business portion.
One question, we approved all to go to 20%, but with the first one, that was in a penalty, we didn't do that.
This is true. However, what was done was done. And
Can't
so-
change it, can't go back and
Can't,
change it.
can't change that one. It's already been done and approved.
Okay.
However, yeah, kind of same concept. Good point. All right, moving on. Call to the public. Nobody from the public would like to just speak, bring up any concerns? All right, I'm going to close the public portion. Reports from the planning director.
So quickly, we had some site plan approvals, minor site plan for, looks like for the cemetery, for the monastery. Then we had an amendment to the site plan for Lucid to add some solar parking shade canopies. Amendment to the site plan for Lucid again, for additional parking shade canopies at their Hannah Road facility. So that was it for administrative decisions. Council made some decisions on a number of planning commission recommendations. I won't go over those, you can see them all there, but they concurred with your recommendations on all of those. Provided the building permit report for your information and the land use application report. And want to let you know that we do have an ability to go to a training for commissioners. I think we've attached, did we attach something to the, good. So if you want to attend that training, let us know and we'll sign you up. So we're giving the planning commission first dibs on our limited training budget to go to that. If you want to go, let us know and we'll make it happen. Once you, then we may be, if we have money left, we'll make that offer to other commissions as well that we staff, but want to make sure the planning commissioners got first opportunity for that. And that's it.
I got one question. The housing permits are dropping, is it because of not the demand, but can't get the supplies and so forth and labor? What's your, have any of the contractors you talked to or anything, why is the housing permit numbers going down?
You know, I did see the number went down significantly, but I really have no idea the reason behind that.
Okay. Just thought you'd have.
Others on the
I
commission,
just thought you'd have
others
some
on the
insight.
commission might have a better idea of what's going on than me.
So, okay, if the builders were just trying to catch up.
Probably.
Good.
Okay.
Adjourn.